Hey guys. This is part 5 of What If Naruto Have the Power to Heal and Destroy. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 24. Let the caged bird sing. So, if you want him, Neji finally spoke, you will have to go through us. The Byakugan user firmly declared. A light snicker escaped Sakan's lips. We do not need to. The blue-haired man nonchalantly turned his head to look at his female teammate. Tayuya. Bind them, he commanded. Smirking, the kunoichi brought her flute to her mouth. Matiki, Muganansa, she called out before starting to emit sound from her instrument. Kiba and Akamaru were the first ones to feel the effects of the attack. Jarg. My body! The Inuzuka screamed as the small white dog yelped in pain. Before the others could react to their friend's predicament, the remaining leaf neens found themselves with their limbs bound by an unseen force as pain ran rampant through their bodies. Out of sheer force of will, Naruto managed to bring his hands up to his ears in an unsuccessful attempt to drown out the sound. Haha, that's useless, you retard. Somehow, the blonde could hear the redhead's voice through the melody. My genjutsu travels in vibrations directly through the skin. Blocking your ears will do you no go, you poor bastard, she gleefully and mockingly exclaimed. A wonderful melody. Sakan praised as he smirked wickedly at the struggling Konoha shinobi. Now, Kidamaru, if you please, the tan man sighed. I don't like this kind of tactics. It feels like a cheat code, but I guess a guy has to do what a guy has to do, he said before forming hand seals and taking air in. Kumo Shirbari. Kidamaru shot another spider web towards the Uchiha. Before the net could approach its target, it was caught by sudden powerful gust of wind that tore it apart. I told you that you would have to go through us to get to Sasuke, Neji said with a low but firm voice as he stood up, apparently no longer affected by the sound-based jutsu. There was a small hiccup on the melody. What? How is it not affecting him? Tayuya's voice shouted through the music. The kunoichi increased the tempo of her genjutsu and concentrated it on the insolent genin. Still, the Hyuga remained standing, staring down the three otonins and seemingly unhindered by the genjutsu. Your sound, Neji said as his body started to glow. I can't hear it. Tayuya's eyes widened. What? She screamed through the sound of her flute. Unlike his teammate, Kidamaru grinned wickedly as he regarded the younger teen. Heh. Someone seems to be leveling up as we speak, he commented. But how? The tan man asked as he looked at his leader. Sakan's eyes narrowed. Though it was extremely faint, he could sense something coming from the leaf genin. Incredible, the blue-haired teen muttered. Not only was he able to fully discern the rhythm of Tayuya's song, but he's also able to emanate chakra from every part of his body at the exact same rate. The pale man explained. That bastard! The redhead shouted without ever stopping to play her instrument. Neji continued to stand defiantly between the remaining members of the Sound Four and his incapacitated comrades. I have to find a way to stop that flute, the Hyuga thought as his wide eyes settled on the kunoichi. I kind of like him, Kidamaru suddenly stated. I want to see what other kind of stunts he can pull out. The strange man said before, in one swift movement, he'd pull out his bow and shot an arrow aimed the leaf nin. The black-haired boy barely had time to form the Fudokaten around him to stop the incoming projectile. Damn it. I cannot waste my time with him. I have to stop that song. Neji's mind raged. Kidamaru, stop! Tayuya screamed, the music coming to an abrupt end. That guy spat in my face by mocking my genjutsu, she exclaimed, sending daggers at the Hyuga through her eyes. I'm going to teach that pretty boy not to make a ridicule of my music. Panting heavily, Shikamaru got back on his feet. The Nara looked his teammates over. As soon as I give you guys the signal, we'll make a run for it. I'll use explosive tags to cover our escape, the team leader informed. Asai escaped Sakan. Very well. Step down, Kidamaru, he ordered, earning a look from his teammate. Oh come on, you know that she'll just get worse and worse if she doesn't get her way. Just make sure that none of the other brats tries anything funny during. Finally, Tan Man sighed in defeat. I guess I'll be in guard duty then, Kidamaru commented before aiming an arrow at the group behind Neji. It's just you and me, White Eyes, Tayuya shouted as she moved several branches forward, standing right over her opponent. Neji, you don't have to do this, Kiba stated as Akamaru barked in agreement. We can just take them all on at once. There are 5 of us and only 3 of them. The Hyuga glanced back for a second. And what would you do if she uses that genjutsu again? The older boy questioned. Then it would be all 3 of them against me, he stated before returning his gaze back up front. Don't worry about me. I will defeat her, the young man stated as he took a few steps forward. A snort escaped the redhead. You're a very cocky bastard, you know that, right? She commented. It must be that Hyuga air of superiority I kept hearing about, she said, trying to bait the black-haired boy, but to no avail as his white eyes remained unchanged. The only reason I have for fighting you is to protect my teammates and accomplish my mission, Neji stated as he shifted his body into a fighting stance. Your words are worthless to me, he declared as the Byakugan activated. If anything, the Leaf Nin's words only served to infuriate the Kunoichi even more. I'm going to tear you apart limb by limb and then we will see who's truly worthless, Tayuya said through her gritting teeth before bringing her flute back up to her mouth. Suddenly, Neji jumped onto a tree, and the next second an explosion went off right where he had been standing. What the? Kiba exclaimed as Naruto narrowed his eyes. The Hyuga simply glared at his opponent, while he continued to jump from branch to branch, explosions following him wherever he went. What is she doing? Sasuke asked as he strained his ears to try and hear if the sound Kunoichi was playing something on her flute that was causing all those explosions. The Uchiha could not hear anything. It's just like back during the Chunin exam, Shikamaru commented. The guy with the air cannons in the palm of his hands. She's using her flute to control the air presses and reproduce the same attack, the team leader stated as he continued to watch his oldest comrade dodge air blasts, one after the other. Through the Byakugan, Neji could how the redhead's chakra extended from her instrument and shifted the air pressure between them to create those explosions. Had it not been for his Kekkei Genkai, the black-haired boy was sure that he would have been splattered all over the ground by now. Tayuya glared at the genin. How long can you keep this up, you asshole? She questioned before increasing the rate at which the air blasts were being released. In order to compensate, the Hyuga increased the chakra around his feet, making him jump both faster and higher. Little by little, the Leaf Nin was shortening the distance between himself and the sound Kunoichi. Tayuya's eye widened slightly when the black-haired boy suddenly landed in front of her. The next second, Neji's extended, chakra-covered fingers were traveling towards the redhead's chakra points. Sasuke suddenly cringed as he could finally hear something. The girl's flute played a particularly strenuous note as barrier of high pressure formed around her body. Neji's Juken strike was immediately stopped by the barrier around the Oto Nin. Before the Hyuga could think what to do the next, the barrier exploded, sending him flying back until his back hit a tree with vicious force. Heh. Serves you right, Tayuya commented. Did you not think I wouldn't catch on to what you were trying to do? She questioned. Not everyone is as moronic as the 5 of you, the young woman taunted. The Hyuga panted as he got back on his feet, his Byakugan sending a glare at the redhead. Seeing another air blast forming, the genin jumped out of the way, barely able to dodge it. He's trying it again? Kiba asked in confusing at seeing his teammates' intention. Why? If she can just create a barrier around herself and blast him? Shikamaru shook his head. I don't know. I don't know what Neji is planning, the Nara admitted, his eyes still following the Hyuga as he jumped around. Gritting his teeth, Naruto tried to unclench his fist. We have to have faith in Neji, the blonde said. He was the only one that could fight off her genjutsu. He's the only one of us who can beat her, the spiky-haired boy said, his fists still tightly closed. You just don't learn, do you, pretty boy? Tayuya taunted as she saw the genin jump closer to her. Hitting the same note again, the air pressure between the two shinobi built up, creating the barrier once more. Maybe this time you'll get it? She shouted just when the black-haired boy was about to collide with her barrier. At the very last second, the Hyuga's Kaiten formed. Arg! Neji shouted as his chakra clashed with the barrier. The flute almost fell from the Oto Nin's hand at the sight in front of her. Wah! What the hell is he doing? She questioned as her skin could feel the friction emanating from the colliding forces. Impossible, the redhead muttered before she was suddenly thrown back by the explosion that ensued, throwing her down into the ground. Looking up, Tayuya could see her opponent's Byakugan eyes looking down at her from a tree branch. Not wanting to lose his opening, the Leaf Nin pumped chakra into feet and shot forward, appearing right in front of the sound Kunoichi. Before Tayuya knew what hit her, her opponent had already delivered several Juken strikes on her chakra points. Just barely, the redhead was able to block the black-haired boy's attack and immediately jump as far away from him as possible. Damn! You! She muttered, trying to catch her breath. Neji remained silent as he simply returned to his fighting stance and continued to watch his opponent with the Byakugan. The genin's silence only served to infuriate Tayuya even more as she glared back at his white eyes. You're still mocking me, you bastard! She exclaimed. I'll teach you to respect me. No, to fear me! The young woman stated in anger as a dark, crack-like pattern spread across her pale skin. Sasuke immediately recognized the markings on the kunoichi's body as a cursed seal. Neji, be careful! He advised as he reactivated his Sharingan and looked at the redhead. Her power has tremendously increased. The Uchiha informed, his eyes confirming the rise of the girl's chakra. Byakugan eyes narrowed at the sight of the young woman's chakra pathway going haywire. The boy shifted his stance to a slightly more defensive one. Tayuya's hand immediately started forming hand seals. Kuchios no Jutsu! She called out before slamming her hand on the tree branch beneath her feet. Back on the ground, just a short distance from the Hyuga, 3 monsters appeared in a cloud of smoke. What the hell are those? The Inuzuka exclaimed in shock as Akamaru retreated into his jacket with a whimper. The 3 creatures looked human enough at first glance, but they had enough oddities in their appearance to be thought as anything else besides monsters. The largest one was bald and shirtless, with his eyes covered and 2 thorns tied to his arms. The second one had a green, full-body suit, hair that seemed to completely hide his face, and carried a large metal club. The last one, and perhaps the weirdest, had the upper part of his body almost completely covered with bandages, and his head was twisted upwards and filled with needles. As far as the leaf genins could tell, all 3 monsters had their mouths sewed shut. Now I'm going to enjoy watching you squirm as the doki tear your body apart, Tayuya stated as she brought her flute up to her mouth and started playing. The 3 demons immediately reacted to the music and shot towards the leaf genin. Neji jumped just as the large metal club came down right where he had been standing. The largest doki followed him, swinging the claws on his arm at the black-haired boy. Acting quickly, the Hyuga kicked the monster, both to keep it away from him and to use it as a platform to propel himself even higher up. Through his Byakugan, Neji saw the 3rd monster try to sneak up on him, a kick already traveling towards the back of his head. Forced to act quickly, the black-haired boy created the Fudo-Katen around his body, effectively propelling the bandaged creature away from him. The leaf nin landed safely on top of a branch, but his respite was cut short as the 3 monsters were already within striking distance from him. The genin was forced to jump around from branch to branch yet again, trying to stay as far away from the monsters as possible. Tayuya continued to control the doki with her flute, coordinating their attack patterns in an attempt to catch the Hyuga off guard. Neji found himself surrounded as the 3 monsters all came at him from different sides. Activating his Katen, the black-haired boy was able to fight the creatures off and jump away. Unfortunately for the genin, the monsters recover faster than he expected, and by the time that the leaf nin saw the large club coming down on his Byakugan, it was too late to dodge it, and the young man was slammed hard down into the ground. There you go! Tayuya cheered for a second before continuing playing. Pushing himself off the ground, the Hyuga had less than a second to catch his breath, before he had to jump out the way as the largest of the 3 monsters came crashing down, its claws trained on the genin. The Byakugan user was able to move out of the way just in time to only have a graze on his shoulder from the attack. When Neji looked up, he saw all 3 monsters closing in on him. Gritting his teeth, the Hyuga planted his feet on the ground. Hakurokujian Sho! The black-haired boy called out. Through his Byakugan, the young man could see the doki step into his divination field. The first 2 strikes hit the green and the bandaged monsters, the second 2 hit the shirtless one. The next 4 strikes were spread throughout, with the green one receiving 2 of them, but it only received 2 while the other had 3 in the next set of 8 strikes. However, Neji was halfway through the 16 strikes of the 5th step, when he felt the already too familiar feel of the metal club going against his skin, sending the young boy flying to the side. Neji! Kiba and Shikamaru cried out in unison as the 2 took a step forward. The sound of a string being pulled back almost to its breaking point stopped the pair on their tracks. Stay where you are, Neji called out as he forced himself back on his feet, whipping away a trickle of blood that ran from the corner of his mouth. I said I was going to be the one to defeat her, he stated as he took a few steps forward, one of his legs giving up, almost causing him to trip over. Tayuya's laughter echoed through the forest. That's a better look for you, she exclaimed. I just hope that you remember, at least for the couple of minutes you have to live, that it was me who took you down a peg. The redhead stated as she continued to laugh. The black-haired genin let out a short laugh of his own. I am very sorry to inform you, But I was knocked down off my high horse a long time ago before I had the misfortune of meeting you," the Hyuga informed, taking a second to look at the spiky-haired boy that stood on the sidelines. "And also," Neji lowered his body back into a fighting stance, "I'm not planning to die anytime soon." He glared at the three monsters as a smirk appeared on his face. "In the next attack, I will take them down," the sound Kunoichi growled at the defiance she witnessed. "Then I'll just have to prove you wrong on that," the young woman called out before she started playing her flute again, this time at a faster tempo. The Doki immediately responded, charging forwards at the young shinobi. "Hack Hayakanajachi show," Neji muttered. It was almost as if a chakra explosion went off in the forest as dust was pushed to every direction, preventing anyone from seeing what was happening within the young man's divination circle. Even with their respective Sharingan, all that Naruto and Sasuke could see were countless of chakra streaks shoot out of the dome of dust that encompassed their teammate and the three monsters. Suddenly, the Doki came out flying out of the cloud of smoke, falling lifelessly by the tree where Tayuya was standing on. "What?" the girl said in disbelief. Once the dust was clear out, the Hyuga stood painting heavily, but with a triumphant smirk on his face. "You can play your flute all you want, but I doubt that their bodies will respond to it anymore," he stated. The redhead started shaking in anger. How dare you?" the Kunoichi struggled to say through their building rage. A sigh escaped Sakan. "Here we go again," the blue-haired teen muttered. "I'm going to kill you! You bastard!" Tayuya screamed as the dark pattern started to grow and spread until it covered her entire body. The Kunoichi's skin turned dark brown as several horns sprouted from her head. "This again," Sasuke said as he observed the transformation, his hand subconsciously moving to the seal on his left side of his neck. Neji saw how far the changes went with his Byakugan. Her chakra went through the roof and became darker and more menacing. "Let me play for you a most wicked melody," the redhead said as she brought the flute back to her mouth. "Maku no Ran!" she exclaimed before starting to play a whole new song. The Doki's bodies started to convulse on the ground. Suddenly the seam over their mouth came undone. Out of each of the monster's body, a cloud of smoke started to come out, but what really surprised the leaf neens were the multiple mouths that started to open on the clouds of smoke. Tayuya glared at the black-haired boy. "This demon will not stop until they finish devouring your flesh," she called out through her song, right before the three monsters shot forward to attack. Hinata walked through the streets of Konoha, admiring all the effort that it was still being put on its rebuilding. "I'm sure that they will be done in no time," the girl cheerfully said to herself. "Hinata-chan! Hinata-chan!" At the sound of her name being called, the blue-haired girl turned around to find Tenten walking excitedly towards her, with Sakura following quietly behind her. "Hey!" the brown-haired girl called out as she got nearer. The Hyuga gave her fellow Kunoichi a courteous bow. "Tenten-san." "Sakura." She greeted them. The older girl smiled. "It's surprising to bump into you twice in one day," she commented. Nodding, Hinata returned the smile. "Well, since Kiba-kun and Shino-kun are both out on missions of their own, I did not feel right staying the entire day at the Hyuga compound," the girl informed. "So I decided to take a walk through the village. I have not done so since before the attack," she added. "Oh, I see," Tenten said in response. "Ah, now that you mentioned it," she suddenly exclaimed. "Remember that you told me that Neji went off with Kiba on the mission? Well, according to Sakura, Naruto and Shikamaru accompanied them as well," the older girl informed. A pair of white eyes widened. "Naruto-kun and Shikamaru as well?" the girl repeated, receiving a nod of confirmation from the other Kunoichi. "Then it must be something really important if that many were sent," the Byakugan user pointed out. "It seems that way," Tenten commented as she crossed her arms. "A boy from each of our teams was chosen." Sakura mind trailed off after hearing the brown-haired girl's comment. Yes, one member of each other their young teams was sent off on that mission, but it was all to bring back the third member of her team. At that moment, the pink-haired girl would have given anything to be with those guys searching for Sasuke, fighting for the future of Team 7. What type of challenges was the makeshift team of 4 young men going to face? Would they get along? Would Sasuke resist? What if they were attacked by someone else after they found the Uchiha? What if they were attacked before? The biggest problem for those idiots will probably be finding their way back home. At the sound of Tenten's words, Sakura snapped out of her train of thought. Looking at the 2 girls next to her, Sakura realized that they had probably seen her dazed and worried face from a moment ago because Hinata had a worried look of her own and Tenten tried to smile reassuringly. The Haruno tried to smile back, but all that she could do was nod. Yes. Most likely. The girl tried to agree. You know, Neji Nizan has been training a lot more this last couple of weeks. Hinata commented, trying to deviate the conversation even if by a bit. Tenten nodded in agreement. Yes, I think he has already put in more hours than he did back during the Chunin exam, the older girl informed. He has taken advantage that our team missions are on hold until Lee recovers. All he has been doing lately is training, she exclaimed, throwing her hands into the air for emphasis. The Hyuga giggled at the brown-haired girl's antics. Yes, Kiba-kun has gotten a lot more serious about his training after the attack as well, saying that he's not going to be saved by anyone ever again. Whatever that means, she said. But when I said he was starting to look like Shino-kun, he got all red and stormed off. The girl giggled. Some people just get flustered too easily, she commented as she giggled. Sakura and Tenten tried her best not to roll their eyes at the blue-haired girl's words. Anyways, the brown-haired girl suddenly started again. It seems that all of our boys are getting stronger and stronger at an alarming rate. Soon they are going to leave us behind, she stated. So we should start training ourselves and show those idiots with are just as strong as they are, if not better, the older Kunoichi exclaimed. Before the other two could say anything about the matter, Tenten grabbed them both by the hand and started pulling them along. Hold on a second. Tenten-san, Hinata called out, trying her best not to get caught up in the moment. No time, the brown-haired called back. We have to find Ino-chan and start training right away, she exclaimed. At that moment, all that Sakura and Hinata could think about was that, while Neji was training, perhaps Tenten had been spending too much time with Lee and their sensei. Even with his Byakugan activated, Neji's vision was still getting blurry as he jumped around the forest trying to get away from the demons. In the last couple of minutes, the battle had taken a turn for the worse for the genin. His cloths were already stained by blood due to the flesh-eating monster's onslaught. In their current form, the Doki were immune to any of the Hyuga's Juken strike and were able to fight off his Kaiten with more ease. Feeling a sudden jolt of pain from his leg, Neji looked down at his leg and cursed. Not only was one of the monster biting down on his ankle, but the fact that he did not see it coming meant that his Byakugan was failing as well. How do you like it? Tayuya's voice asked through the music. The song that accompanies the Doki's dinner? She asked before she started laughing. With his foot hurt, the black-haired boy missed a step, fell crashing down to ground. Neji, look out! Kiba cried out desperately as the Hyuga tried to push his body off the ground. Despite the Inuzuka's call, it was too late for the older genin to do anything to stop the next attack. All three demons bite down on his body, one in the leg, one in the hip, and the third one on the shoulder. Gyurg! Neji's painful scream echoed through the forest. Damn it! Naruto cursed, and he took out a kunai and moved forward. The next second, an arrow fell less than 2 inches from the spiky-haired boy's foot. Sharingan eyes immediately looked up at the trees. Kidamura smirked at the murderous glare he received. Sorry, but this is not a multiplayer campaign, he joked as he trained another arrow at the blonde. The Uzumaki growled at the tan man. He was more than ready to take on the strange-looking shinobi, but he was not sure if he would be able to burn that bow away before the Oto Nin could shoot at one of his comrades. Before Naruto could act, another shout redirected his attention. Aya! Neji cried out. There was no pain in this scream, just sheer force of will as the next second chakra exploded out of the Hyuga's body, pushing the Doki back. One of the black-haired genin's leg gave up and he fell to one knee in the middle of the forest. The monster that had bitten on his shoulder had ripped out the sleeve and part of the shirt's collar. Everyone was surprised at the sight in front of them. Now that part of his body was in clear view, they all could see the many scars scattered all over the Hyuga's alabaster skin, some that appeared to have healed only a few hours ago. What's this? Tayuya asked. Ever since they started their fight, she had thought that her opponent was the typical stuck-up member of an elite clan. She believed she was fighting the type of person that never had to work hard for anything in his life. But now, looking at his body, maybe she was mistaken. Please ignore the scars, Neji calmly said, snapping everyone out of their similar trains of thought. Let's just say that I went a little too far with my training. The redhead growled at the return of the genin's nonchalant attitude. It doesn't matter anymore. Your body is going to be mincemeat pretty soon, she exclaimed before continuing playing her flute. As the Doki rushed towards him, the Hyuga simply closed his eyes. No, he muttered. I told you that I will be the victor, the black-haired said as the rate of chakra that his body was emanation skyrocketed. With their Sharingan, Naruto and Sasuke could see the chakra spilling out of the older boy and how it started to concentrate on his back. Hack! Neji said as he embraced his own arms and hunched over. Naruto, take a good look. These are the wings that you and Hinata-sama have given me, he thought as he forced chakra on his back to start to gather more tightly together. Tenhashu, the young man called out. Just as the Doki were about to bite back down on the Hyuga's body, the chakra on his back became visible to everyone else in the forest as two shining pairs of swords appeared hovering over the genin's back, almost as if they were wings. Suddenly, one of the blades started shining brighter than the rest. Neji straightened back up and swung one arm forward. The brightest blade immediately followed the motion, slashing one of the Doki in two, causing both the monster and it disappear, and sending out a shockwave that pushed the remaining two away. What? Tayuya screamed incredulously. Shikamaru's eyes were as wide as they could be. Incredible. Each of those wings is like a reshaped Kaiten, the Nara said. All that chakra compressed into that shape. It must really pack a punch. The Byakugan user took a few steps forward, the three remaining blades following his every move. Like I said before, no sound that you produce with that instrument of your can hurt me, the black-haired boy declared. The monstrous girl shook with anger. Shut up! She cried out before ordering the two Doki to attack. Neji was not even fazed by the two incoming demons. Instead, the young man simply extended his arm to the side and immediately another wing started to shine. Beckoning the blade to swing forward, the chakra weapon slashed the two fanged monsters clean through before disappearing. Stop already? Your actions are futile, the Leaf Nin stated, two wings still on each side of his back. Shaking uncontrollably in fury, Tayuya gripped her flute. I hate you. I hate you, she muttered. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. The redhead started screaming before starting to play something that no one could hear on the flute. I'm going to kill you even if it's the last thing I do. Sensing something was off, Shikamaru looked up at the trees and gasped in surprise. To the Nara, it appeared as if something invisible was growing among the trees, pushing leaves and branches out of the way as it expanded. Air pressure, the black-haired boy said as he realized that a giant wall of pressure was being built up in the trees. She's planning to drop that thing down on herself and Neji, he exclaimed. The Hyuga looked up and the only sign of acknowledgement he gave to the building air pressure was a narrowing of his eyes. Wordlessly, the Byakugan user jumped onto a tree and rushed towards the sound Kunoichi. Die! Tayuya cried out as the wall of air above their heads started to come down. Now closer to the redhead, the last two wings on Neji's back begun to glow. Just as he started to feel the air pressure above him, the black-haired teen brought both of his hands together in front of him, causing the blades to follow suit and combined into a single concentrated mass of chakra. Neji swung his arms downward, releasing a potent blast of chakra that hit the Oto Nin across her body. The air pressure disappeared as Tayuya was propelled through the forest, flying trough branches and tree trunks, until her body fell limply onto the dirt. Back on the ground, the younger Leaf Genins breathed sighs of relief as the panting Hyuga straightened back up, turned to face them, and presented a knowing smirk. The next second, their eyes widened in horror as an arrow flew drilling through Neji's chest, leaving a gaping hole behind as the teen fell with a silent scream caught on the boy's throat, blood already spilling freely from the wound in his mouth. Neji! Naruto and Kiba shouted in unison as they rushed forward. The blonde was just barely able to catch his teammates, falling form before it hit the ground. I'm your next opponent! Kidamaru called out from a tree, an arrow trained on Uzumaki and the Inuzuka, as a delightful smile formed on his face in response to their murderous glare. So, who's going to step up to the challenge? The teen with the 6 arms asked. Chapter 25, Over the Moon. Neji! Kiba shouted. Get your ass out here right now or I swear I will leave without you. The Inuzuka added with a growl while next to him Akamaru barked, giving his support to his partner's words. The young brown-haired boy went back to pace back and forth in front of the Hyuga compound and every so often he would send a glare at the door as Akamaru barked again. Soon enough, however, the genin lost his patience again. Neji! Hurry up! He shouted. Kiba-kun! The Inuzuka suddenly heard a soft voice called out to him, causing him to immediately tense up and a blush to spread all over his face. What's the matter? Why are you shouting? Hinata asked as she poked her head out of the compound's door. Do we have a mission? She asked confused. The hooded boy tripped over his own words, all reasoning having abandoned him. I'm waiting for Neji, Hinata-chan, he finally said. We're supposed to go on a mission right now, Kiba explained. Akamaru barked, confirming the genin's words. The blue-haired girl eyed her teammate curiously. Oh? She completely stepped outside of the compound and stood before the Inuzuka. How come you are going with Neji Nizan? She asked. Kiba visibly tensed up at the question. Oh. Nothing really, it's just that we have to leave as soon as possible, but the mission is nothing more than a fetch quest. As he said that, the young man's eyes looked at everything except his teammate. The look the young Hyuga gave to the Inuzuka made it clear that she didn't know by his explanation for 1 second. Tell me the truth, Kiba-kun, what are you going to do? The kunoichi insisted. Is it dangerous? She added as her voice changed to a worried tone. Berating himself for worrying the girl in front of him, the brunette tried to find a way to appease her worries. No, it's nothing dangerous, he assured her. Like I said, we just have to go out, track this thing down, and bring it back to the village. Kiba explained, putting a cheerful smile on while Akamaru barked in agreement. It's just that the more time we take to set out, the longer it will take us to find it. I bet Shikamaru and Naruto are already waiting for us at the gate, and we just have to. Immediately, the young man knew he had screwed up. Naruto-kun and Shikamaru-kun are going as well? Hinata repeated in surprise. The 4 of you? Kiba-kun, this cannot possibly be as trivial as you are making it out to be. Her lavender eyes gave her teammate a determined look. Tell me, what is going on? She asked again. The Inuzuka took a couple of steps back, completely at a loss of words for what to say to the young Hyuga. Shikamaru had told him to keep the matter as discreet as possible, and he knew that Naruto would not be too pleased if he started divulging things about his team. Looking for help, the hooded boy looked down at his partner. Akamaru gave him a helpless look that he was sure matched his own. Hinata was about to take a step forwards and ask again, but was interrupted as a new, strong voice joined in. Kiba, Neji said as he stepped out of the Hyuga compound, all of his gear packed and ready. My apologies. I had to inform Hayashi-sama that I will be leaving for a mission. The older genin explained. Both Kiba and Akamaru let out a sigh of relief at the sight of their new, temporary, teammate as Hinata's attention was drawn away from them and toward the long-haired boy. Neji Nizan, what is going on? What are you doing with Naruto-kun and Shikamaru-kun? She asked. Unlike the Inuzuka, the older genin remained unfazed by the girl's questions. Sorry, Hinata-sama, but that is something we are not to talk about at the moment. Neji calmly explained, his eyes moving from his cousin to the hooded boy. In fact, Kiba was not even supposed to mention anything, he said as his lavender eyes narrowed slightly into a glare. The brunette scratched his head and let out an uneasy laugh while Akamaru's ears dropped in embarrassment. Neji Nizan, please. Hinata instead, looking at the older Hyuga's eyes pleadingly. Ever since the formation of Team 8, Kiba had known about the tense relationship between Hinata and her relatives. So seeing Neji giving the girl a reassuring look and softly placing a hand on her shoulder shocked the Inuzuka. Please, do not worry about it, Hinata-sama. Everyone will be back before you know it, he said before stepping back, giving a slight bow and starting to walk off. Akamaru's spark snapped Kiba out of his trance. That's right, Hinata, you don't have to worry, the boy said, managing to produce a large and bright grin as he gave his teammate the thumbs up. Because I will be there to protect everyone, he stated before turning around and going after Neji with Akamaru in tow. And flashback. Neji! Naruto was barely able to reach in time to catch his teammate's body before he hit the ground. Looking down, the pair of sapphire eyes widened as they took notice of how much paler the older genin had already become. You bought ad! The blonde's eyes were tore away from Neji when he heard someone let out a furious roar next to him. Looking at his side, the spiky-haired teen saw Kiba suddenly lunge himself at the sound. The Inuzuka felt his hand become clawed as he swiped forward with all of his strength at the tan teen. Kidamaru simply smirked before effortlessly jumping back and evading the strike intended for him. Instead, the leaf genin's attack hit the branch that the Oto nin had been standing on, obliterating it into tiny splinters. Ooh. You have some fangs, don't you? Kidamaru teased as he landed safely away from his attacker. Several branches away, Kiba was heaving as he glared at the six-armed teen. Damn you! The brunette growled as he flexed his clawed hands. I'm going to make you pay for what you did to Neji! He shouted before charging forward once more, swinging his claws at the sound shinobi again and again. Letting out an amused laugh, Kidamaru continued to dodge the younger boy's attacks. Well, it seems we have a new player, he announced as he jumped back and drew an arrow on his bow. Let's test those skills of yours, the strange teen proposed as he let go of the arrow. The Leaf Genin saw the arrow coming towards him and immediately started to turn his body in mid-air in an attempt to dodge it. Unfortunately, however, the projectile was coming too fast and the hooded boy could not get out of the way quickly enough. Kiba had no choice but to close his eyes and brace for the piercing impact. Suddenly, the Inuzuka felt something soft hit him on one of his cheeks. Kiba's eye snapped open and he saw Akamaru tackling him out of the way. With impressive strength, the small dog was able to clear his partner out of the arrow's path, letting the projectile simply fly through and hit a tree behind them, destroying its trunk on impact. Landing on a branch, the Konoha Genin tried to catch his breath. Looking at the side, he saw Akamaru land safely and giving him a worried look. "Thanks, partner," Kiba said, earning a bark from the small dog. "Yeah, you're right. I have to calm down," he commented as he strengthened back up. "Kidamaru!" An irritated Sakan screamed. "Stop messing around. Get the Uchiha and let's go," the blue-haired boy called out. Sakan tightened his fist as he surveyed the situation. Both Jirobo and Taiya were taken out. Their mark still had 3 leaf nins around to protect him, and they were running out of time. The young man cursed himself under his breath for letting such a simply capture mission get out of control like this. His only consolation was that Kimimaro was nowhere in sight to punish him for it. The tanned young man let out a scuff. "No way in hell!" Kidamaru exclaimed. "Both the fatso and the bitch got to have their fun. It's my turn now and I chose this guy and his dog to be my opponent," he announced in glee as he pointed another arrow at the Inazaka pair. Kiba narrowed his eyes and bore his fangs at the Oto nin. A few branch from him, Akamaru mimicked his actions. "Let's go, partner," the brunette said as he and his dog crouched down, ready to launch another attack. "Kiba!" Naruto called out from his position on the ground with Neji. Behind him, Shikamaru and Sasuke were running towards him. The hooded boy glanced down at his teammates for a second. "Stay out of this, guys," the genin growled, his mind replaying the promise he had made before leaving the village again and again, the promise that now lay broken. "He's ours," he stated before charging forwards with Akamaru. The smile on Kidamaru's face widened. "That's the way," he exclaimed before letting another arrow fly towards his opponents. Without having to think about it twice, Kiba made a hand seal as Akamaru let out a bark and, with a puff of smoke, the small dog transformed into an exact copy of his partner. The two Kiba then used the sole of each other's shoe to push themselves out of the arrow's weight and started circling around the sound nin. Kidamaru followed one hooded boy and the switch to the other. Smiling, the 6-armed teen jumped up just as both the genin and his dog came down with their claws on the branch he had been standing on. "You will have to craftier than that," the Oto shinobi commented before taking in a deep breath. "Kumo Shirbari," he called out, spewing a large spider web on top of his opponents. The two Kiba bore their fangs up at their enemy as the net descended towards them. "Gutsuga," the real Kiba called out before him and Akamaru starting spinning and shot upwards, tearing through the spider web and tree branches on their way towards the tanned boy. "Oh? A special attack?" Kidamaru asked excitedly as the two small tornadoes approaching him. "Kumo Nenkin," he called out before spiting a golden liquid onto each of his 6 hands that immediately hardened into 6 clubs as strong as metal. The sound nin brought his new weapons up in defense just as the spinning attacks were about to hit him, effectively blocking them. "Sorry, but not strong enough," the young man commented as he pushed back, stopping the spinning attacks and leaving Kiba and the de-transformed Akamaru hanging defenseless in mid-air. The Oto shinobi was about to launch his own attack, but he was stopped on his tracks when he saw both of his opponents smirking. Before Kidamaru could do anything, the Inuzuka quickly ate a small black pill and threw another one at his partner. Akamaru caught it with his mouth, his fur immediately turning red before he transformed into his partner once more. "Gutsuga!" Kiba shouted again before the two of them started spinning with restore vigor and pushed up. Bringing his club forward again, the sound nin tried to block the incoming attack once more, but when the spinning vortexes made contact with his weapons, he realized how much stronger the attack was this time. "Wah! What the hell? Is this a cheat?" he questioned just before all 6 clubs broke apart, allowing the 2 tornadoes to push on upwards, impaling him right in the chest. "Gaia!" Kidamaru screamed as his body was pushed by the pair from Konoha through tree after tree. Kiba and Akamaru finally landed safely on a branch as the momentum of their attack continued to send Kidamaru forward until his back ultimately hit a tree. The 6-armed team used the tree trunk behind him as leverage to stand back up. "Ha! Ha! Well, that was unexpected," he said through pants. "I guess I have no other choice up the ante." he added, suddenly regaining his composure as a vine-like pattern spread throughout his body. This guy has one too. The Inazaka exclaimed as Akamaru whimpered and cowered slightly. Hee hee. Kiba laughed, all signs of exhaustion from the attack he had received having disappeared. Since you have your little mutt helping you, why don't we make things fair? He proposed before starting to make hand seals. Kuchios no jutsu, he called out, slamming his palm on the branch. Immediately a cloud of smoke covered the tanned boy. Akamaru let out a louder whimper as he took a hesitant step back. Meanwhile, Kiba simply gulped. As the smoke dissipated, a strange and terrifying sound, somewhere between a screech and a growl, was heard. Let me present you to my partner, Kiba said as the smoke finally cleared, revealing the young man standing on top on a gigantic spider. Say hi, the six-armed shinobi instructed, addressing the spider. Immediately, the giant arachnid shot a stream of web at the astonished brunette. Kiba and Akamaru barely had enough time to snap out of their trance and jump to the side to dodge the incoming attack. The giant spider continued shooting its web at the two, forcing them to continue jumping from branch to branch, dodge the web streams. Kiba watched in amusement as his opponents exhausted themselves trying to dodge the spider's attack. Seeing an opening too good to pass, the Oto Nin spat out several golden clumps, sending them flying towards the hooded boy. As they flew through the air, the golden masses hardened into razor-sharp blades that caught the preoccupied Inuzuka off guard. Arg! The leaf Nin screamed as he fell onto a large branch. The spider saw its opening and instantly shot a stream of web at its down prey. The Konoha genin was trying to get the blades out of his body when he looked up and saw the approaching attack. He tried to push his body back up, but the blade impaled on his legs prevented him from it. Waff! Akamaru barked as he jumped in the way of the web, getting carried away by it and hitting a tree behind his partner. The web immediately started to harden, sticking the small dog to the tree trunk as his fur returned to its normal color. Akamaru! Kiba exclaimed, yanking the blade out of his leg and turning around to face his trapped partner. The genin was about to jump to his dog's aid when his back was hit a new stream of web. Kiba smiled wickedly. Gotcha! The six-armed teen shouted in glee. Guys, dinner is ready, he added. Immediately, Kiba turned his head to look back. His eyes widened at what he saw. The web attached to his back led all the way to Kiba and the giant spider, and on it dozens of smaller spiders were crawling towards him. Gritting his teeth, the brunette quickly reached for one of his pockets and took out another soda ration pill. Akamaru, you know what to do, the young man called out, throwing the pill at his trapped partner. The small dog caught and ate the pill again, and immediately his fur turned red once more. Akamaru let out a surprisingly strong bark before his body was suddenly covered in flames that burned the webs binding him. Still covered in fire, the familiar jumped forward, biting the web off Kiba. As the smaller spiders fell off the falling web and onto branches, Kiba was left genuinely surprised at the turn of events. What the hell was that? He asked. Instead of answered, the Inazaka simply smirked as his clawed hand suddenly started to emanate large amounts of chakra. Akamaru, let's go! Shiroga! He exclaimed. The red dog jumped one to the next branch as Kiba swiped his clawed hand forward, releasing a powerful gust of wind. Akamaru let out another powerful bark as the wind coming from behind him seemed to feed the fire on his body, causing it to grow and shoot forward. The flames suddenly took shape, a large wolf speeding through the air and burning down branches, webs, and spiders alike on its path towards Kiba and the giant arachnid. What that? Hurriedly, the tan shinobi instructed the spider to jump out of the way right before the fiery wolf came crashing down where they had been standing. From their location, Kiba let out a short laugh. Impressive, isn't it? He said as Akamaru barked in agreement. After I got knocked out of the Chunin exam, my mom and my sister put the both of us through a very intense chakra manipulation training. The brunette revealed. Unfortunately, I still haven't gotten the hang of shape manipulation, but Akamaru here is kind of a prodigy at it, even if his chakra reserves are not that large. The small dog barked in agreement again. And that's where we lucked out, since my elemental chakra affinity ended up being wind. Back on the ground, Shikamaru's eyes widened after hearing his teammate's revelation. That's brilliant, he whispered. What is it? Naruto asked from even further below as he used the small medic equipment they have brought with them to at least stop Neji's blood loss. If what he said is true, then they can bypass Akamaru's limitation by using Kiba's wind chakra to feed Akamaru's fire one, who can then control its shape like in the jutsu we just saw. The Nara explained as a small smirk appeared on his face. I thought that those two were a good match before. But now I know that they are perfect for each other, he commented. However, as his eyes traveled from the Inuzuka to the six-armed teen, the Chunin's face became serious again. But if this guy is like that girl, then he must have one more transformation left. The team leader reasoned. Kiba continued to smirk as his claws started to emanate chakra again. Let's go, partner! He exclaimed before charging forward with Akamaru. A scuff escaped Kidamaru. Well, I admit it was a nice combo, he commented. But all I have to do to beat it is keep you two separate. The Oto Nin pointed before spitting more golden blades at the small dog, while the spider shot its web towards the leaf genin. With his wind chakra-enhanced claws, the Inuzuka did not have to bother to dodge the streams of web coming at him, as he could just rip them to shreds with his hands. Even after the monstrous spider sped up the rate of shots, the genin continued to have no trouble fending them off. Unfortunately, that was not the case for Akamaru, as his fire chakra could not affect sticky gold fast enough and had to dodge the incoming projectiles. Kidamaru soon became aware of this and shot a long stream of the gold substance, catching the red dog in mid-air. Gotcha now! The sound shinobi exclaimed as he was about to reel his prey in. Akamaru! Kiba yelled for his partner and, in that moment of distraction, one of the spider's shots caught the genin on his forearm. However, instead of worrying, the brunette smirked as he moved to the side and swung his trapped arm around, causing the long strip of web to get tangled with the gold one that had his partner trapped. Here we go! This is our own variation, Kiba called out as he started making hand seals. Back with the rest of the leaf shinobi, Sasuke recognized the seals. Ryoka no Jutsu, the young man said before sending a vast amount of chakra down the spider web. The moment the chakra reached Akamaru, the small dog let out another powerful bark, shooting a giant, dragon head-shaped stream of fire through the rest of the web. Kidamaru was caught by surprise and had no other option but to let go of the sticky gold and jump out of the way. Looking down, the tan teen saw how the dragon had seemingly consumed the giant spider. With a screeching wail, the monstrous creature fell to the ground with its body still covered in flames. By the time Kidamaru tried to undo the summoning, the spider was already dead. TCH. Now I'm angry, the Oto Nin said as he glared at the younger boy and his dog. I'm getting sick and tired of this game. Let's skip to final level already, he declared as the markings around his body started to glow and expand. Just like his teammates before him, Kidamaru's body took a demonic shape with his hair turning white and increasing in volume, his skin turning to a dark, maroon color, a pair of horns emerging on his head, and a third eye opening on his forehead. Well, that's certainly an ugly look. Kiba tried to joke, but he could not ignore the sensation of dread that his opponent's chakra was giving off. Looking down and seeing the worry look on Akamaru's face, the brunette fought off any hesitation from his voice. Let's hit him with the big one, partner, he said. Looking up, Akamaru followed his friend's lead, shaking off his own hesitation and barking in agreement before transforming into Kiba once again. Sugaroga! Kiba called out as both he and his doppelganger started spinning, and one of them ignited in flames. The two small tornadoes shot forwards and began to intertwine, forming one massive vortex of flames that destroyed anything on its way to the sound shinobi. For his part, the transformed Kidamaru simply planted his feet on the branch he was standing on, and braced himself for the incoming attack. The blazing fang hit the six-armed monster square in the chest, and drove his body through trees and branches with immense force. Finishing their attack, both the Inuzuka and his partner stopped spinning, landed on a branch, and watched as the momentum of the technique continued to push the Oto Nin. However, they were boys surprised when the transformed teen simply landed on a branch and held his ground. Well, that was a little spicier than I predicted, Kidamaru commented off-handedly as he looked down at his chest. A hole had been burned on the young man's clothes, revealing a patch of seared skin, but I think that the armor held up okay, the sound shinobi commented as the burned skin turned gold and broke off his chest, leaving behind unscathed maroon skin. Damn it! Kiba cursed at the realization that their attack had been useless. A gleeful laugh escaped Kidamaru. Now don't beat yourself up over it, he commented as he cracked 3 of his knuckles. I was way out of your league from the very start, he stated before charging forwards for the first time. Kiba and the still transformed Akamaru jumped out of way as the monstrous shinobi came crashing down where they had been standing. The two then circled around the six-armed teen, before closing in to strike. Unfortunately, despite of their impressive speed, Kidamaru dodged their attack with ease. It's my turn now, the sound Nin commented. Before the Inuzuka could react, 3 fists connected with his body, sending him flying through branches. Out of the corner of his eye, the genin could see Akamaru being sent flying as well. Naruto and the others watched their teammates struggle against his opponent. Kiba and Akamaru tried to offset Kidamaru's sheer strength with their speed, but the transformed teens seemed to have no problems dodging all of their attacks, and even the few that managed to land appeared to have no effect on monstrous shinobi. The Sora Sharingan appeared on the blonde's eyes, as he prepared to jump in at a moment's notice. The Konoha genin watched in growing dread as his enemy seemingly phased out of existence just as his claw was about to hit him. The next thing he knew, a powerful kick connected with the back of his head, sending him flying straight at Akamaru with enough force that both of them fell down to the ground. "We can't keep going like this," Kiba muttered as he pushed himself off the ground. Glancing at his side, he saw Akamaru also trying to get back up. "What do you say, partner, are you up for one more?" the young man asked. The transformed dog looked up and weakly gave a nod. Gathering chakra, the leaf genin and his dog stared down at their smirking opponent. Shugaroga. Once again the two started spinning and converged into a giant vortex of flames as they charged towards their target. "If you want to play it like that, then let's settle this," Kidamaru shouted before spewing the golden substance onto one of his right arms, which hardened in the shape of a large spiked gauntlet. "Come on!" he called out as he reeled his fist back and pumped chakra into it. As the farm approached, the 6-armed teen punched forward. The attacks met on a stalemate that sent a powerful shockwave through the forest. Kidamaru glanced down, and was somewhat surprised to find out that his golden gauntlet had started cracking. "Well, this has been fun," he admitted before the friction of the attack caused an explosion that swallowed all 3 of them. "Geez. I already told you, Tenten, I can't go with you today," an annoyed Ino exclaimed at the older girl from behind the counter of her family's flower shop. For her part, Tenten simply crossed her arms. "Just tell your mother to let you leave early today and let's go," the brunette insisted. The blonde sighed as she busied herself by rearranging things on the shop. "It's not only that. The truth is that I just don't feel like going to train today," she finally admitted. "How can you say that?" Tenten asked, alarmed. "That behavior is the reason why most of the boys are out in some sort of secret mission, while us kunoichi were left behind," the older genin exclaimed in indignation. Ino let herself fall on her seat in exhaustion. "It's not like I'm saying that I'm not serious about my training," the Yamanaka said. "In fact, just yesterday I spent most of the day training with my dad. I had planned to take it easy today, but I had to come here and help run the shop," she tried to explain. "And that's why I don't want to go training, I just want to relax today." Tenten did not back off and instead moved closer to the counter. "That's not good enough," she exclaimed. "The guys don't care about consecutive days of training and neither should we," she pointed out. The 2 kunoichi continued their argument back and forth inside the shop, despite having been at for almost 2 hours. Meanwhile, just outside, Hinata sat patiently and could not help but smile at her friend's antics. "I'm sorry," Sakura said weakly as she walked up to Hinata and sat next to her. The Hyuga gave her former classmate a confused look. "What do you mean, Sakura-chan?" she asked. "What do you have to apologize for?" Sighing, the pink-haired girl simply stared into space. "For dragging you out here, for Tenten suddenly channeling Lee, for the guys being sent out. Basically for this whole situation," she finally said. The Byakugan user started at the girl for a couple of seconds. "Neji Nizan did not want to tell me what their mission was about," the kunoichi said. "Are you saying that?" Sakura nodded at the blue-haired girl's question. "Yes, it has to do with Team 7, the Haruno answered. Immediately, an alarmed look appeared on Hinata's face. "Is something wrong with Naruto-kun?" she asked worriedly. When her former classmate shook her head weakly, she relaxed a bit, but remained concerned. "So, it is about Sasuke-kun," the Hyuga realized. The pink-haired genin merely nodded dumbly. Seeing tears threaten to fall off her friend's emerald eyes, the Byakugan user placed a comforting hand over hers. "Do not worry about it, Sakura-chan," the girl instructed. "Everything is going to turn out fine," she said. "Naruto-kun and Neji Nizan are very strong, and Shikamaru-kun was always the smartest one among us." Hinata offered a warm smile to her fellow kunoichi. "Also, Kiba-kun promised that everyone will be safe," she informed. "And he did it with such confidence that I have no other choice but to believe him." Back at home, I was always overshadowed by my sister. She was so good with our clan's techniques that Mom could not help to compare all I did with her. The forest ground was really uncomfortable to lie on. Things didn't get better in school. Sasuke immediately took the title of best student, while Shikamaru was the smartest. I even tried to be the class clown. But I couldn't compete with Naruto. The burning smell around him was irritating his nose. Even in my team, Shino had all the skills and Hinata-chan had the potential. I was left behind again. In the smoke-covered forest, Kiba slowly opened his eyes. Seeing Akamaru, back to his usual, white-furred self, struggling to stand up on shaky legs, the Inuzuka tried to push his body off the ground as well. Once up, the brunette looked at himself. He had several burns and bruises all over his body. Even his trusty jacket was all tore up after the explosion. There were several trees on the ground around him, while dust and smoke still lingered on the air. But Kidamaru was nowhere to be found. Hinata-chan. I was unable to protect Neji. The leaf nin lamented. But at the very least, I beat. His train of thought was interrupted when he heard a strange sound. Suddenly, the sight of a weird-shaped arrow appeared through the smoke spinning towards them. Kiba was too transfixed to move out of the projectile's way, but they felt something soft push him to the side. Once again, Akamaru had leapt to the aid of his partner and pushed him out of harm's way. Unfortunately for the small dog, he was not so lucky this time and the drilling managed to graze him pretty badly. Akamaru! The Inuzuka screamed as he caught the little dog on the air. A red patch was already growing on the animal's back. That's some pretty loyal partner you have there. Kidamaru's voice reached the genin's ear, causing him to turn around. To the brunette's horror, the monstrous teenager landed on a branch above him, virtually unharmed. The Oto nin smirked down at his opponent as he threw away the bow he was holding. I have to admit that last attack was stronger than the first one, he said, showing how the hand he had used to challenge the attack was now completely burned up to the forearm. I think I might lose it, but I doubt I will miss it. The transformed nin joked as he showed off his 5 remaining hands. Kiba held his gaze up at his enemy for a couple of seconds before lowering down back at his dog. You were great today, pal, he whispered. I could not have asked for a better partner. A small smile formed on his face. Thanks for everything, he said before suddenly throwing Akamaru in the direction of his teammates. Shikamaru was taken aback by Kiba's actions but was able to compose himself in time to catch the small dog. Kiba! What are you doing? Instead of answering the question, the Inuzuka smiled. Take care of him, he called out before turning to face the sound shinobi. Oh? Kidamaru said, amused. Are you going to continue this fight all by yourself? He asked mockingly. Kiba sent a glare up. I have one more trick, he revealed before reaching for his pocket. Shino was always going on and on that one should always have a trump card hidden. The genin took out 3 soldier ration pills. I think this is what he was talking about, he commented before swallowing all 3 of them at once. What the hell are you doing? Shikamaru repeated his question with more urgency this time. The Nara and the rest of his team could only look as the Inuzuka seemed to gag on the pills for one moment before composing himself. Their eyes widened as large amounts of chakra started to pour out their teammate's body. Closing his eyes, the Inuzuka started to concentrate, changing his chakra into wind chakra as leaves started to circle around him. Let's go, Kiba said, opening his eyes. Heh. Kidamaru smirked as he prepared for an attack. The Oto nin was surprised at the speed of his opponent. One moment the younger boy was standing below him, and the next he was right in front of him. The transformed teen sent a powerful punch forward, but all he hit was air as the leaf nin disappeared. Suddenly, Kidamaru felt something grab him under his shoulders from behind. What the hell? He exclaimed. Looking back, all that the sound nin could see was Kiba glowing with chakra and smirking. Zetsuga, Kiba said as the wind around them suddenly picked up, violently spinning the 2 of shinobi and propelling them up into the air. The Oto nin struggled to break free. What the hell are you doing, you bastard? He asked. The transformed teen tried to mold his chakra to get himself out, but the massive concentration of his opponent's own chakra was preventing him from doing so. Why are you doing this, you miserable wreck? Kidamaru asked as he felt the wind chakra cutting through his armored skin as it spun. It was Kiba's turn to laugh. What? You don't like my last combo? He mocked as they continued to move high up in the air. The trees, the ground, and their teammates were already a long way down. What are you planning on doing? The Oto nin asked, dread starting to seep into his voice. You'll see, was all that the genin said right before the tornado they had formed suddenly arced downward. Kidamaru's eyes widened in realization as he found himself speeding towards the ground. What are you doing? He asked, not bothering to mask his fear anymore. You're going to kill us both. The Leaf Nin's only response was tightening his hold. I have never been able to stand out among my friends. I wasn't even able to keep my promise, he confessed. But at least I can do this much. Kiba stated right before his jutsu drove him and Kimimaro into the ground with a thunderous impact. Kiba! Naruto shouted. The blonde had been rendered perplexed during his friend's technique, but finally snapping out his stupor he stood up and rushed towards the crash site. Sasuke cursed under his breath. The mission that Orochimaru had assigned to them with the utmost importance had completely gone off rails. Kimimaro had pretty much asked for this outcome, and now that he was taken out, Sasuke had to deal with this mess himself. Seeing the blonde separate from the group, the pale teen decided that it was now time to act. Out of all the Konoha shinobi that had interfered, the spiky-haired one was the one that Sasuke had been the most worried about, and now this was his chance to take the younger boy out as he was distracted. The remaining Sound Nin jumped off his branch to the ground and dashed after his target, a kunai already in hand. However, Sasuke only managed a couple of steps before his body came to a complete halt. What the hell is going on? He asked as he looked around. I'm not letting you attack him from behind. A serious voice caused Sasuke to turn and look behind. There stood the only Leaf Nin from the group wearing a Chunin jacket. The Sound Shinobi could see that their shadows were connected. You're a Nara. The Oto Nin commented offhandedly. Suddenly, the blue-haired teen realized that one of his hands was shaking. What the hell is this? He pondered. I'm not afraid of this guy, he thought as he glanced at the Konoha shinobi. Shikamaru's fist was shaking out of sheer anger, and the same action was being forced on Sasuke through the Chunin's cage main technique. I will be your opponent, the Nara stated as his eyes narrowed menacingly. Chapter 26. As a leader, Sasuke cursed under his breath. The mission that Orochimaru had assigned to them with the utmost importance had completely gone off rails. Kimimaro had pretty much asked for this outcome, and now that he was taken out, Sasuke had to deal with this mess himself. Seeing the blonde separate from the group, the pale teen decided that it was now time to act. Out of all the Konoha shinobi that had interfered, the spiky-haired one was the one that Sasuke had been the most worried about, and now this was his chance to take the younger boy out as he was distracted. The remaining Sound Nin jumped off his branch to the ground and dashed after his target, a kunai already in hand. However, Sasuke only managed a couple of steps before his body came to a complete halt. What the hell is going on? He asked as he looked around. I'm not letting you attack him from behind. A serious voice caused Sasuke to turn and look behind. There stood the only Leaf Nin from the group wearing a Chunin jacket. The Sound Shinobi could see that their shadows were connected. You're a Nara, the Oto Nin commented offhandedly. Suddenly, the blue-haired teen realized that one of his hands was shaking. What the hell is this? He pondered. I'm not afraid of this guy, he thought as he glanced at the Konoha shinobi. Shikamaru's fist was shaking out of sheer anger, and the same action was being forced on Sasuke through the Chunin's cage main technique. I will be your opponent, the Nara stated as his eyes narrowed menacingly. Sasuke gritted his teeth in frustration. Back off, kid. I've had just about enough of you and your little friends, he warned as he glared at the Leaf Nin. Really? Shikamaru responded. Because I've been sick and tired of your little group for a long while now, the brunette stated in a firm voice. A scoff escaped the Oto Nin. I have studied your stupid village and I know that Nara do not specialize in direct combat, the blue-haired teen pointed out. You are more suitable for stalling. Just one big clan full of hindrances, he taunted, trying to get a rise out the Chunin so that he would break his concentration, allowing Sasuke to free himself from the cage main jutsu. Shikamaru for his part simply shrugged off the comment with a smirk. You let me worry about that. But first, the young man said as he raised one of his fists, forcing the Sound Nin to do the same. Suddenly, the Konoha shinobi drove his fist right towards his face with tremendous force. There, Shikamaru said with the smirk still in place as he watched Sasuke recoil back from his own self-inflicted attack. If I didn't punch you in the face soon I wouldn't be able to think clearly. Damn you. The humiliated Sasuke growled at his opponent as a trickle of blood ran down the side of his mouth. Smirking a little wider, the Leaf Nin charged. The cage main technique forced Sasuke to do the same. The young man tried to fight off the control of the jutsu but to not avail. As the two shinobi got closer, Shikamaru made a thrusting motion with his left hand, causing the blue-haired teen to send the kunai he had been carrying flying forward, but with very little strength. The Nara kept his arm extended as he compelled his opponent to move towards him, grabbing onto the traveling kunai as it flew close to him. At the very last moment when the two ninjas were about to collide with each other, Shikamaru ended his shadow jutsu and swiftly spun his body around the Otonin, getting a clear shot to drive the kunai right into Sakan's spine. Gotcha! The Chunin said as he directed the blade to its target. Suddenly, a pair or arm shot out of Sakan's back and stopped the kunai just before its tip could puncture the blue-haired teen's back. What? It was all that Shikamaru could let out before the hands holding his arm threw him across the field with surprising force. The brunette's flight continued until his back hit a tree and his body fell to the dirt. Trying to recompose himself, the young man glanced at his opponent. The sight that greeted him caused his eyes to widen in a mixture of shock and horror. A second, identical body was sprouting out of Sakan's back. Well, my dear Sakan. It seems that you have some problems dealing with the trash. The second body said as it twisted around and to look at the leaf nin. A low growl escaped the main body. I had everything under control, Yukon, he said as he glanced at the perfect replica of his face that peered over his shoulder. Not from where I was standing, little brother, which is right where you are, Yukon said in a mocking tone as he patted the main body on the head. If you had listened to me from the beginning, we would have been done with this mission. But no, instead you end up getting captured by Anara's technique. The older brother complained. He got lucky. That's all, Sakan muttered in a strained voice. He won't do it again. A smirk appeared in Yukon's face. Yeah. And I will make sure of that, he said before his expression suddenly turned serious. We cannot fail this mission. Orochimaru-sama does not tolerate failure, he added. The younger brother nodded. You're right. Let's finish this, he declared as a black, spotty pattern spread throughout his and his brother's body. As Shikamaru got back on his feet, his eyes were glued on the figure in front of him as it split into two separate, but completely identical forms. The Konoha Nin had not finished processing what he was seeing when the two sound shinobi charged forward. The young Chunin was unable to fend off the attacks from two fronts. The moment he blocked Sakan, his brother would attack him from his blind side, and vice versa. It seemed that the Oto siblings had in fact studied up on the Nara clan, since the pair spent most of their time jumping around the brunette, which made it impossible for the Leaf Nin to capture even one of them in his cage main jutsu again. The assaults continued for a while as the Nara was punched around by the brothers, until finally Sakan delivered a powerful kick to young man's stomach, sending the Chunin flying into a tree with so much force that the tree snapped in two as Shikamaru's body flew through it. Lying on the ground, the brunette weakly glanced up at the smirking pair approaching him. Arg! Ino groaned as she let her tired body fall down onto the grass. Tell me, Hinata, is everyone in your cousin's team this damn hyperactive? The blonde asked as she glanced at the blue-haired girl sitting next to her. A small giggle escaped the Hyuga before answering. No, Neji Nizan is pretty calm. He can be quite intense at times, but he is mostly calm, the Kunoichi answered. Though he also complains from time to time about the same thing you did, she added with another short, little laugh. For her part, the Yamanaka merely sighed and turned to look at the source of her frustration. After what seemed to be hours of arguing, Ino had caved and gone along with Tenten's ridiculous plan for a girls-only intensive training session. The older Kunoichi was now making short work of Sakura after having beaten both her and Hinata. The Yamanaka hated to admit it, but the weapon mistress was far more skilled than her and her two former classmates combined. I prefer teammates that are a bit more relaxed, the blonde languidly commented. Like Shikamaru-kun? The Byakugan users asked in curiosity. Suddenly, a rather strong blush appeared on Ino's face. What? Shikamaru. No! Nothing like Shikamaru, the young woman stalwartly insisted. That guy is too extreme when it comes to being laid back, she hurriedly commented. It's troublesome to have someone so lazy as a teammate. Hinata gave her friend a concerned look. Really? Is it truly that bad? She asked. Having taken a moment to calm down, the Yamanaka composed herself. Well, it's not all bad, she admitted. Despite everything, Shikamaru does have a few good points. No. Nothing like Sasuke-kun, of course. But still, she added. The worried look in the blue-haired girl's eyes vanished and was replaced by one of interest again. Like what? She urged her former classmate to continue. Well, he's super smart for starters, Ino pointed out. I mean, sometimes Asuma-sensei would have us do a mock fights and I think Shikamaru is out and that it's just between me and Shuji. But then Shika comes back with some strange strategy and I realize that he had been planning it from the start. with Chuji and I walking right into it. Another giggle escaped Hinata. Shino-kun likes to do things similar to that as well. And it usually ends with Kiba-kun getting angry and leaving training early. The two kunoichi had a small laugh at the expense of their hooded friend. But there is another thing about Shikamaru. Ino suddenly started again. For someone who likes to laze around as much as him. When he gets serious about something, he really gets serious about it, she said, receiving a confused look from the other girl before continuing. He takes the responsibilities laid on him to heart, and he's more than willing to let himself get burned if it means carrying them out. A soft breeze passed through training field just as Tenten was apologizing to Sakura for having used too much force in her last attack. The blonde smiled at the scene before looking down at her feet. So I think that maybe the reason why Shikamaru tries to evade responsibility so much is because he cannot allow himself to let down those who might depend on him. Ino's smile widened as she looked at Hinata. I don't really hate that about him. Shikamaru forced his body off the ground as the Sound twins continued to approach. Well, I have to say, you suck as a team leader, Yukon commented as he wiped some of the Leaf Nin's blood from his knuckles. Most of your team is down, and your little mission is about to go up in flames, he added with a self-satisfied smirk. The Nara had to use a nearby tree for support to stay upright. What about your teammates? The brunette questioned. They are out as well. Laughter erupted on the scene. Those idiots that got themselves killed? Who cares about them? Sakan boasted gleefully. All that matters is that the two of us fulfill this mission for Orochimaru-sama, the older brother informed. Shikamaru's eyes narrowed at the twins' words. Aren't you supposed to be the leader of your team? The Chunin asked with his eyes directed at Sakan. For his part, the younger Otonin simply shrugged his shoulders. That's why I only have to think about the success of this mission, he responded. If Kidamaru and the others are stupid or weak enough to get themselves killed, then it's all on them. I'm not here to babysit anyone, the blue-haired young man said with complete disregard for his fallen teammates. It started out slow, but Shikamaru's laughter grew stronger and stronger until it was echoing among the trees. It looks like this guy finally snapped, Yukon commented as he eyed the Konoha shinobi curiously. Still in a fit of laughter, the Nara shook his head at his opponent's remark. No, nothing like that, he responded. It's just that. Here I was thinking how much I had messed up on this mission. But now I know that, no matter how bad things had turned out, I'm nowhere near as pathetic as this guy over here, the Chunin said while signaling at Sakan. The twins growled at the brunette's comment, which earned another chuckle out of the Leaf Nin. Yeah, it's true that the team leader is ultimately responsible for making sure the mission successfully is carried out. But that's only part of the deal. Any mirth disappeared from Shikamaru's voice. The leader is also responsible for the lives of the teammates he is in charge of. And if those lives are lost, then he is not supposed to simply shrug that off. His fist closed tightly. He has to remember them. Let those losses weigh on his soul. Because those are his true failures. A snort escaped Sakan. That's a quick way to get yourself overwhelmed and your judgment clouded. Shikamaru gave the blue-haired teen a hardened look. It's not about mindsets, but about growth, he declared. Neji's Byakugan has a blind spot on the back and his techniques require a lot of energy. This creates a problem in drawn-out battle. Kiba on the other hand fights with completely disregard of his own body, which means he should not fight by himself against a long-range opponent. The Leaf Nin said as if he was reciting it out a report. I will never forget that. Even if it's too late to do anything for them, I would never forget that if I had taken this information under consideration, I could have prevented this. The Sound twins narrowed their eyes. I am Naro Shikamaru, Chunin of the village hidden in the leaf and leader of this team, the young man announced as he brought his hands together. My own failures cost two of my teammates dearly. So now the least I can do for them is make sure I beat the living hell out of you, he declared before his shadow suddenly shot towards the two Sound ninjas. Sakan and Yukon reacted immediately, jumping away from the incoming shadow, making sure it stayed away from theirs. You talk really big for someone who is about to be finished off, the older brother exclaimed as the two charged forward. A smirk formed in Shikamaru's lips. Did it ever occur to you that I might have been guiding the course of this fight up until now? He asked in an amused tone. By the time the Leaf Nin's words registered in the brother's ears, it was too late. Branches from the trees all around them suddenly sprung to life and wrapped themselves around the Oto ninja's body, completely restricting them. What? What the hell is this? Sakan asked alarmed. The Nara's smirk widened. Well, you studied Konoha. You tell me. The brunette mocked. No. It can't be. You cannot possibly be a Mokuton user. Yukon shouted as he struggled against the branch's hold on his body. For a response, the Konoha shinobi simply closed his fist, which caused branches to wrap tightly around the twins' necks. Sakan gasped for air. Impossible. Only the first Hokage could do this. He struggled to let out. Shikamaru simply shrugged his shoulder. He had to learn it from somewhere. I simply figure out his secret. The twins continued to fight a losing battle against the branches. Damn. You. Yukon growled. I don't care about the wood release. Sakan glared at the Chunin. I'm going to kill you, he declared as the spatter marks on his body started to burn and spread throughout the rest of his body. Seeing this, Yukon followed his younger brother's lead and activated the second level of his curse seal. As the transformation finished, the branches that held the twins seemingly exploded into tiny little splinters. Now 2 goblins, half of their body covered in some sort of armor, stood in front of the young Leaf Nin in perfect symmetry, glaring at him with murderous intent. Despite everything, Shikamaru held their ground. Do you think that little show is enough to take on what's considered to be one of the most powerful abilities in the Shinobi world? The Chunin asked. Instead of answering, the monstrous brothers charged forward with tremendous speed. For his part, the Nara brought his hand together, and immediately a new set of thicker branches sprung towards the Sound Nins. Sakan and Yukon clawed at the waves of branches that came at them. However, no matter how much they destroyed, more branches moved in to attack them. Eventually, the two had to jump back. This isn't working, the older twin pointed out. Then let's focus on one point and force our way through, the other teen suggests, receiving a nod of approval from his brother. Shikamaru was a little taken back when he witnessed how the lower side of Yukon's body merged again with Sakan. From the brunette's perspective, it looked like the grossest piggyback ride in the entire world. Terrankin. The Chunin had no time to process when the grotesque monster shot forward with renewed ferocity. The branches moved in to meet the Otonins, but this time, the 2 pairs of hands were able to start gaining ground. Pretty soon, the brothers had punched their way through the foliage and were standing right in front of Leaf Shinobi, forcing the Nara to jump back to a safe distance. The fight continued like that for a while. Shikamaru would get a few hits in with the tree branches, but for the most part the 2-headed shinobi kept gaining ground and making the brunette retreat more and more. Wait! Yukon suddenly called out from over Sakan's head. Hee, you shrew bastard. He commented, eyeing maliciously at his opponent, who narrowed his eyes and tightened his fists. What are you on about? The younger twin questioned. I've been observing this piece of trash for some time now, the transformed teen revealed. Did you notice that his little Mokutan completely stops every time he jumps away from us? He asked as a smile formed in his face. It's not wood release at all. Someone connected his shadow with the trees and used those Nara clan jutsu to control them, Yukon revealed in glee. The Konoha nin swore under his breath. I called it Kanashitayami no Jutsu, the Chunin said, trying to maintain a confident look. It combines the Nara clan's techniques with earth and water chakra to create a very believable full wood release, he revealed. A short laugh escaped Sakan. That was pretty ingenious of you, the young man admitted. Just for that, I'll kill you a bit quicker, he announced before charging with full strength. Shikamaru did not bother with branches anymore and instead opted to simply jump away from his opponents. Not so fast, Yukon called out as he preformed hand seals. Doriahiki! The transformed teen shouted. Suddenly, a large stone walk rose right behind the Nara, blocking the brunette's retreat as he hit it with his back in midair. The Leaf Ninja only had time to give a quick glance at the obstacle that had stopped him and then back to his opponent before he was met by a flurry of fists and kicks. By the time the Chunin's body hit the ground, he was already reduced to a bruised and bloodied mess. Now die! The monstrous twins called out in unison as their fists traveled down towards their wounded opponent with the intention of crushing his skull. The sound of chirping birds suddenly filled the forest, and the next thing Sakan knew was a sharp, searing pain running from his shoulder to his spine before his part of his arm was sent flying away from the rest of his body. Shikamaru looked wide-eyed as Sasuke had suddenly jumped in and swung a Chidori-covered hand between him and the Otonin's fist, cutting the latter clean off. Jayarg! Sakan screamed as he held what was left of his arm with his remaining hand. You bastard! He cursed. The Uchiha stood between the Nara and the Oto ninjas with his right-hand technique died out in his hand. Despite everything, I'm still a Leaf Nin, and I'm not going to let you hurt my friends, the raven-haired boy said between breath, still panting from his own bout against the Sound 4. Growling, the brothers glared at the Sharingan user. It's only because Orochimaru-sama wants your damn body that we don't kill you on the spot, Yukon declared. Instead of replaying, the genin simply smirked at his opponent's remarks. Sensing danger, Yukon glanced upward. Look out! He shouted, separating from his twin as the two brothers jumped to opposite directions. The next second, the place where they had been standing was blown up by arrival of a Rasengan-wielding Naruto. The dust eventually settled, revealing an angry-looking blonde. We'll take care of things from here, Shikamaru, the Uzumaki announced as Sasuke walked towards him. The two members of Team 7 turned to look at a twin each. Shikamaru watched his former classmates trade blows with the transformed brothers. The Nara had no problem admitting that their taijutsu was vastly superior to his, as little by little Naruto and Sasuke were gaining the upper hand. Still, however, there was no telling when the fight would end. The battle could go for a long while, but the Nara knew that it needed to end soon. The Sound Nins realized how they were losing ground and tried to put some space between themselves and the two genins. Rasengan, Chidori, not relenting on their assault, Naruto and Sasuke charged as they readied their attacks in their hands. The twins immediately bite down on their thumb and slammed their hands on the ground. Kuchios, Rashomon. They both called out before a large, demonic-looking wall rose between them and their opponents. A large dent appeared in the giant gate as the two techniques hit it. Ha! How do you like Orochimaru-sama's ultimate defense? Sakan questioned. Try as much as you want. Nothing you can dish out can destroy it. Yukon challenged in glee. Really? Nothing can destroy it. Shikamaru repeated as he sat up, causing the Sound brothers to turn their head to look at him. Thanks, he added before making a hand seal. Suddenly, the ground beneath them turned pitch black. The brother immediately panicked, but they soon realized that their movements had not been bound. A short laugh escaped Shikamaru. Kagetai no Jutsu, the brunette weakly informed. It makes sure that you see only what I want you to see, he added as the shadow over the ground started to retreat back to the Chunin. I have to say, for a while there I thought all of this would be for nothing. Until you put up that wall. Now I can use it without worrying about hurting my friends. Sakan narrowed his eyes. What are you talking abo? The transformed teen started to say, but stopped as his eyes registered the state of the ground they're standing on. What the hell is this? The forest floor was completely littered with explosive tags that had been hidden by the brunette's technique. When did you? Yukon stuttered his words as he looked around in panic. The Nara simply smirked. From the start. I've been stringing you along since the battle began, Shikamaru said as his shadow finished retracting. Didn't I tell you already? He asked before throwing one more to the ground, which triggering all of the other explosive tags. A powerful and colossal explosion detonated, consuming the three of them. On the other side of the wall, Naruto felt the explosion go off as demonic structure protected him and Sasuke from the blast and flames. What the hell happened? The blonde questioned. Moments later, the Rashomon gate sunk back into the ground and allowed the two members of Team 7 to see the blast zone. Shikamaru, the spiky-haired teen shouted before dashing towards his friend's burned form. Naruto, the brunette managed to say through cough as his teammate approached. The blonde knelt beside the Chunin. What the hell were you thinking? The Sharingan user asked with concern. Shikamaru gave the genin a cheeky smile before starting on another fit of cough. Get back to the village right away. He managed to get out. Kiba and Neji need help, the brunette added weakly before losing consciousness. The Uzumaki tightened his fists. You idiot. You need help just as much as they do, he said. Suddenly, another set of coughs got the blonde's attention. Turning around, Naruto saw one of the Oto twins moving, back in his human form. You bastard. You killed him. Yukon muttered as he lamented clutched his brother's body. A furious growl came from the blonde as he glared at the last remaining Sound Nin. Shaking in anger, Naruto stood up with every intention to put a definite end to this battle. However, the moment the young man took a step forward, an incredibly potent and suffocation killer intent spread throughout the forest. What is this? Sasuke asked as he looked around for the origin of the incredibly dark aura. Naruto searched for source as well. This killer intent. It's stronger than Zabuza's. And even Gaara's, he thought. The only one that could compare was that Kisame guy. For his part, the grieving Yukon started to shake in fear. As he continued his search, Sasuke's eyes suddenly widened. Naruto! Watch out! He screamed, But all the Uchiha could do was stand and watch as his friend turned around right before he was ambushed by a purple blur. The next thing the raven-haired teen knew, his teammates stood several feet away impaled to a tree by what appeared to be two white stakes, one in the chest and another in his leg. Looking at where Naruto had been standing moments ago, Sasuke could now see a pale young man dressed in loose purple clothing with a skinny body that downed the unmistakable marks of a cursed seal. "Are you Uchiha Sasuke?" Kimimaro inquired with a cold voice as he let the large barrel he was carrying drop to the ground and took a step towards the raven-haired boy. Before the Sharingan user could react, the newcomer appeared in front of him, grabbing him by the neck and picking him up with ease. "Well, are you?" he asked. Chapter 27, Savage Beasts Collide. "What is this?" Sasuke asked as he looked around for the origin of the incredibly dark aura. Naruto searched for source as well. "This killer intent. It's stronger than Zabuza's. And even Gaara's," he thought. The only one that could compare was that Kisame guy. For his part, the grieving Yukon started to shake in fear. As he continued his search, Sasuke's eyes suddenly widened. "Naruto! Watch out!" he screamed, but all the Uchiha could do was stand and watch as his friend turned around right before he was ambushed by a purple blur. The next thing the raven-haired teen knew, his teammates stood several feet away impaled to a tree by what appeared to be two white stakes, one in the chest and another in his leg. Looking at where Naruto had been standing moments ago, Sasuke could now see a pale young man dressed in loose purple clothing with a skinny body that downed the unmistakable marks of a cursed seal. "Are you Uchiha Sasuke?" Kimimaro inquired with a cold voice as he let the large barrel he was carrying drop to the ground and took a step towards the raven-haired boy. Before the Sharingan user could react, the newcomer appeared in front of him, grabbing him by the neck and picking him up with ease. "Well, are you?" he asked. Struggling against the hold on his neck and the suffocating killer intent, the raven-haired teen was able to glare at his captor. The pale man took a second to regard the younger ninja's Sharingan eyes. "So you are," Kimimaro commented before tightening his grip. "Arg." The Uchiha gasped as the fingers around his neck pressed down. Casually, the newcomer reached into his disheveled robe and took out a small jar with dark, purple pills inside of it. Is that the Saishingen?" Yukon asked timidly as he pressed his back against the trunk of a tree. The blue-haired teen's body language indicated that he did not know whether to run away or stay. "This is a new variant that Kabuto-san created," Kimimaro answered in a monotone as he forced one of the pills down the Sharingan user's throat. "Orochimaru-sama can wait no longer. This new pill will greatly accelerate the process to prepare the Uchiha's body," the older shinobi added. Sasuke struggled, but try as he might, he was unable to spit the tablet out due to his current predicament. The effects of the pill were almost immediate. A dark aura suddenly enveloped the Uchiha as the young man screamed in pain. That's not supposed to happen," a startled Yukon commented. Ignoring the other Sannin, Kimimaro simply turned around and started to walk back towards the large barrel, his hold on the genin never loosing. "Open the coffin now," he commanded in a strong voice. Yukon jolted in surprise, but hurriedly scrambled to comply, lifting the lid off the barrel. Kimimaro unceremoniously threw Sasuke's writhing body into the coffin before making a hand seal. An ominous black fog gathered over their heads for a brief moment before it suddenly fell into the barrel along with the leaf Nin. Warily, Yukon placed the lid back and immediately stepped back. Incredible. It would have taken all of us in the Sound 4 to pull off the black fog, but he did it by himself. The blue-haired teen thought as he watched the pale man seal the coffin. No wonder he was the one Orochimaru-sama had chosen. Suddenly, Kimimaro jumped away from the barrel and Yukon. The next second, the place where the older shinobi had been standing burst into black flames. "What the hell have you done to Sasuke? You bastards!" Naruto demanded to know as he walked towards the two sound ninjas. Despite his accelerated healing, blood was still running from his wounds. Setting sights on the sealed confine, the blonde charged towards it ready to set his teammate free. Unfortunately, the Jinchuriki was intercepted by the newcomer, who delivered a powerful kick to the genin's midsection at lightning speed that sent the spiky-haired teen flying right through a tree. "I cannot allow you to destroy the coffin," Kimimaro commented. "Doing so will kill Uchiha Sasuke and interfere with Orochimaru-sama's plans," he added. The Uzumaki got back to his feet right away, angry at the pale man for kicking him and at himself for almost killing his friend. "Then I guess I will have to take care of you two first," the genin commented as his Sora Sharingan stared at both Oto shinobi down. Unbothered by the Konoha nin's words, Kimimaro calmly took a few steps forwards, setting himself between the blonde and the coffin. Yukon, take the Uchiha to Orochimaru-sama, he ordered. Make sure to get there on time. The older teen added, spiking his killer intent to accentuate his command. Visibly affected by the malevolent aura emanating from his comrade, Yukon needed a second to compose himself before nodding and grabbing the barrel, strapping it to his back. Nod you won't! Naruto declared before dashing towards the blue-haired teen. Unfortunately, the Uzumaki was once again interacted by Kimimaro, who tackled him again, ramming his body through several trees. The spiky-haired boy gasped in pain as he realized that more white stakes have impaled his chest. Looking up, the genin was surprised when he saw several bones sticking out of his opponent's body. The Otonin did not seem to be any pain despite his own body's condition. Does it surprise you? The gray-haired teen asked. This is Shikatsumiyaku, my extinct clan's bloodline limit, the Kage explained, referring to the bones sticking out. The Sharingan user merely glared. I don't care about you. Move out of my way, he commanded as he got back on his feet. Kimimaro remained unfazed. I will not, the young man answered simply. I am here to fulfill Orochimaru-sama's wish. And right now you are a threat, he stated before suddenly launching himself forward. Yanagi no Mai. As the sound shinobi closed in on the blonde, he thrust his palm forward, a sharp bone coming out of it to stab his opponent on the shoulder. Naruto was able to move out of the strike's way, prompting Kimimaro to swing his outstretched arm in pursuit. For a brief moment, Naruto considered blocking his opponent's arm to gain an opening, but fortunately his Sharingan eyes caught another bone emerging from the older teen's shoulder. Instead, the spiky-haired boy jumped back out of the attack's reach. However, having predicted the Leaf Nin's action, Kimimaro took advantage of the split-second opening the jump gave him to deliver a powerful kick to the younger boy's stomach, sending him flying back. Naruto's back hit a tree with a thunderous impact, causing him to flinch in pain. Amaterasu! The genin exclaimed as he quickly opened his eyes. Kimimaro jumped back right before the black flames appeared. Damn it! I need to beat this guy quickly, Naruto raged in his mind. I have to catch up with the one that took Sasuke, he thought as he continued sending the Amaterasu flames at the gray-haired teen who was graciously dodging all of them as if he were dancing. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Naruto called out after a quickly hand seal. Immediately, 10 blondes appeared around the Otonin, closing in on their target. Karamatsu no Mai, Kimimaro muttered, crouching down slightly as the clones swarmed him. The next second, all of the shadow clones disappeared in clouds of smoke, revealing the Kagaya with his body covered by sharp, protruding bones. The gray-haired teen looked up to find the blonde right in front of him with most of his right arm covered in fire. Hyoku! Naruto called out as he thrust his fire jutsu forward. The sound Nin did not even bother to dodge. Blue Sharingan eyes widened in disbelief at the sight of his attack being stopped by the bones in the pale teen's ribcage that had suddenly emerged and impaled in his arm. Tsubaki no Mai, Kimimaro said as he looked down on the younger shinobi. Reaching for his shoulder, the sound Nin pulled a short sword and used to stab the trapped blonde in the left shoulder. The power of the strike was so strong that Naruto was set flying back onto a tree once more. The Uzumaki panted as he gripped his bleeding shoulder. Damn you, he growled. Still, the Kagaya remained unnerved by his opponent's killer intent. From what I sensed as I was coming here, I expected you to be a greater challenge, the pale man informed. But your mind is so focused on rescuing Uchiha Sasuke that you have yet to realize that you are going to die by my hands. Naruto's fist tightened. Shut up, he demanded. I understand you. I know what it feels that to have this one thing that you devote yourself to the point that nothing else matters. The sound Nin admitted. You want to save your teammate, and I want to fulfill my master's wish, he added. However, there is a difference between you and me. I have nothing left to lose, Kimimaro said before extending his arm away from the blonde. By the time the spiky-haired teen's eyes widened in realization, 5 projectiles had already shot out of the Kagaya's fingertips and were flying straight towards where Neji and Kiba lied unprotected. Acting out of instinct, Naruto launched himself toward his fallen teammates. I'm not going to make it in time, he thought with dread. As he rushed to try and stop the white bullets, the blonde error dawned upon him. With his opponent havening exposed himself completely defenseless, Kimimaro directed his other hand towards him and released another barrage of the bone projectiles. Naruto realized that he had no chance to dodge the small missiles if he wanted to even hope to help his friend. All that the genin could do was brace himself for the, more than likely, painful impact and hoped that he would still be able to make it in time. However, the Otonin's attacks never made contact. Two large barriers of sand had formed in front of him and his teammates, blocking the white bullets. What a shameful behavior! Uzumaki Naruto. A strong voice echoed throughout the forest as the sand gathered up and started whirling in place. Okay, Hinata-chan, this time put more force on your spin, okay? Tenten instructed as she prepared another set of kunai. The younger Kunoichi gave her friend a worried look. Are you sure? Hinata asked, her voice full of her doubts about the situation. Geez. I told you that yes, I am sure. This is the best way for you to learn the kaiten, the brown-haired girl declared. The Byakugan user bit her bottom lip. But the blue-haired girl was cut off when 3 kunai were shot her way. Having no other choice, Hinata started to spin on her heel, pumping chakra out of every part of her body as she did so. Taking the advice, she pushed on harder as the blades approached. 2 of the kunai bounced harmless off the sphere formed by Hinata's movements. However, the third one somehow latched on to the young woman's chakra for a brief moment before it was sent flying to the side in the direction where Sakura and Ino were resting. Look out! Tenten shouted as her kunai cut through the hair on a warpath towards the pink-haired girl whose eyes widened in shock at the incoming projectile. Suddenly, a powerful gust of wind swept through the training field, veering the small blade away from Sakura, and making it fall somewhere among the trees. Tenten let out a sigh of relief at her friend being unharmed, but still looked around the field confused. Where did that strong wind came from? It's almost as if... The weapon mistress stopped mid-sentence as she caught sight of a familiar person approaching. Her hold on her weapons tightened. You! She shouted. Sakura and the other 2 kunoichi turned to where the older girl was glaring at and gasped. Temari from the hidden sand walked casually towards them as she closed her fan. What are you doing here? Ino asked as she took a defensive stance. The blonde girl took a moment to glare at the group of tense kunoichi in front of her before her expression softened. Relax. I have not come here to pick a fight, she revealed. However, her words went heated as 4 girls refused to lower their guards. My brothers and I were sent back to the Leaf as a peace envoy. Here, Temari added as she threw her fan far away from her reach and raised her hand as a show that she meant no harm. The younger kunoichi relaxed a bit, but Tenten remained in full alert. What do you want with us? She asked, narrowing her eyes. Looking at the brown-haired girl, Temari shook her head in disbelief. I asked the Hokage point me where you were because... Shocking everyone, the older girl suddenly bowed down. I wanted to personally apologize for the Sand's attack on this village and for the part my brothers and I took in it, she said unreservedly before raising her head. My brothers wanted to come too, but Kankuro had to stay behind to deal paperwork related to our mission and Gaara already went ahead to the others. The blonde informed. Sakura gave older girl a confused look. Ahead to the others, she repeated. What do you mean? The Haruno asked. To meet with your teammates, Temari revealed. The Hokage informed us that they were in a very important mission. Gaara rushed out immediately to back them up. A figure started to form in the middle of the whirling sand. Naruto was taken back as Gaara appeared in the middle of the forest, arms crossed, and pale blue eyes looking straight at Kimimaro. What are you doing here? The spiky-haired boy asked, not sure of what to make of the newcomer's presence. The redhead did not even bother to look at the other Jinchuriki as he answered. I could ask you the same thing, he said. Your Hokage told me that you were out here trying to save a friend. But instead I find you failing at it. The Sand Genin said, holding nothing back. The blonde flinched for a second at those words. You don't know what you're talking about. He tried to rebuke. Heh. A short laugh escaped Gaara, surprising the hell out of the Uzumaki. Yeah, maybe I do not. I am still new at this protecting others' business, the Sand users admitted. But what I do know is that if you continue fighting this person in your current state, you will die. Pale blue eyes narrowed. And I cannot allow that to happen. Naruto gave the Suna Shinobi a look. What are you saying? As if to answer the question, the sand from the redhead gourd came out and hovered around its master. I will take care of this guy while you go ahead and rescue Sasuke, he indicated. But what about the others? The blonde questioned as his eyes shifted from Neji and Kiba to Shikamaru. I will keep them safe, Gaara assured with confidence. Now go, he commanded. The Sharingan user hesitated for a second, but then nodded before dashing off. Kimimaro immediately reacted. I cannot allow that, the gray-haired teen said as he moved to intersect the spiky-haired boy, his sword still in hand and ready to strike. Sabaka aim! Gaara called as he extended one of his hands. Immediately a barrage shot out of one of the sand clumps floating in midair. Out of sheer instinct, the Kagaya jumped out of the sand projectile's way, giving the Uzumaki enough time to get away safely. Kimimaro watched the blonde's back disappeared from his view. You berated Naruto from not being focused on the fight, and now you are committing the same mistake. The redhead's words reached the Oto nin's ear. Turning around, the gray-haired teen barely had enough time to jump out of the way. A large stream of sand flew past where he was standing. Despite having missed its apparent target, the sand continued going until it reached Shikamaru's unconscious body, picking it up and taking it to where his teammates lied. The large gourd on Gaara's back dissolved into sand, moving toward the three fallen ninjas and enveloping them in a large sand sphere for protection. How will you fight me if you are using the sand to protect them? Kimimaro inquired as he glared at the Jinchuriki. In response, Gaara unfolded his arms and narrowed his eyes. I have something more feral stored for you, he said as the dark lines around his eyes suddenly became more pronounced. The sound Shinobi watched as his opponent bore his fang teeth at him and an orange chakra started to cover his body. The chakra coat around the genin's body seemed to be boiling as it took an animal-like shape. Gaara's eyes were replaced by Shikaka's black and yellow ones as he crouched down, and his hands turned into claws. A large tail made up of the same boiling chakra swung behind the young man. I see, Kimimaro said in an unperturbed voice. You are the type of guy who does not hold back. Very well. The pale teen let his robe fall off his shoulders and hang around his waist. The rip-like pattern on his body started to burn and spread, giving his skin a dark tone as a large set of bones sprouted from his back. Let's go. The two transformed shinobi charged at each other at blinding speed, both readying their fists. The clash between the two young men was so strong it sent a shockwave throughout the forest. The backlash of their collision pushed the two teens back. Gaara wasted no time to thrust one of his arms forward. Immediately, the bubbling chakra arm extended, flying straight at the Oto nin and destroying every branch on its path. Kimimaro jumped out of the way. Tesenka no mai, Tsuru! The Kagaya roared as he pulled out his own spine and used as a whip to strike the Jinchuriki. Mimicking his opponent, Gaara jumped to dodge the sweeping strike. Dozens of threes were cut in half as the bone whip swept through the forest. Taking advantage that his opponent was in midair, Kimimaro raised his free hand and sent out a barrage of razor-sharp bones. The Jinchuriki saw the projectiles coming. Taking in a deep breath, Gaara let out a powerful roar that not only blew the bones away, but caught the sound ninja by surprise as it pushed him back down to the ground with tremendous force. Before the Kagaya could recover, the Suna Genin landed back on a tree and sent another chakra arm at his enemy. The transformed team managed to dodge the incoming attack, but failed to see the chakra hand grabbing on a tree behind him. Using the extended hold as a slingshot to quickly shorten the distance between them, the redhead delivered a powerful punch on the sound nin, sending him flying far back, going through trees and rocks like they were nothing. By the time Kimimaro regained his composure and stood up, the sand nin was already in front of him ready to strike again. Tesenka no mai, Hana! The gray-haired teen quickly called out before large bones came twisting out of his left arm, forming a large drill-shaped structure. The Kagaya brought his left arm up, using the large bone cone as a shield to block the Jinchuriki's fist. Kimimaro took the chance and wrapped the whip around the redhead's ankle. With his hold on his enemy, the sound nin immediately flailed the redhead's body, trying to slam him onto the ground. However, just as Gaara's body was coming down, the chakra limbs extended downwards, slowing him down and letting him land safely. Not wasting any time, Kimimaro took a page out his opponent's book and propelled himself at the Suna Genin with his whip. Despite his enhanced senses, the Jinchuriki was only able to partially dodge the older teen's drill-like weapon that managed to catch the side of his stomach with enough form that to send him crashing back several feet. Gaara got back on his feet as he held his bleeding midsection. Physical pain, he panted. I have not been acquainted with this concept for too long, the young man admitted. Kimimaro regarded his adversary for a second. I, on the other hand, have known it all my life, he said before a small trickle of blood ran down the side of his mouth without any notice from the tan monster. Tell me. You are a shinobi for the hidden sand, why are you involving yourself with this matter? The Kagaya questioned. The official word is that I am doing this as show of cooperation from my village as way of apologizing for our involvement in the attack your master orchestrated, Gaara responded. But really, I simply owe a debt to someone that I can never hope to repay, and this is the least I can do, the Red answered firmly as he took his hand away from his side, showing that the wound that was openly bleeding moments ago had now closed. The gray-haired teen narrowed his eyes. It is really too bad. Kimimaro suddenly commented with a sigh. The redhead was slightly taken back. What is? He inquired. You and I both fight for the sake of someone who we owe far too much to. The Otonin started. I wish that you would have been the last opponent I ever got to face. He revealed. A battlefield shared with you does not sound like a bad place to finally rest. Unfortunately, you let that guy get away from me. Gaara could feel as a new sudden wave of killer intent swept through the forest. I still have to track him and kill him lest he continues to interfere with Orochimaru-sama's plans. Kimimaro said as he took a much more aggressive stance. So I have to kill you quickly first. The Jinchuriki remained quiet for a couple of seconds. You can try, he said in a grave tone. Suddenly, the bubbling chakra around his body started to boil violently. I will not let you harm Uzumaki Naruto. Gaara grunted as his fangs became more pronounced, and the ground beneath his feet started to shake. Kimimaro had heard before about the power that a Jinchuriki held, but witnessing it was completely different. The skin seemed to be tearing off the genin's body as he emanated wave after wave of pure killer intent. Graph! The sand ninja roared as all the chakra around him seemingly exploded. As the dust settled, the Kagaya was greeted by the sight of a strange and menacing red figure swinging its single tail. There were no facial features except for its mouth and eyes that appeared as mere empty white voids. The creature took a step forwards and dust around it seemed to dissipate as if it was trying to run away. Suddenly, it thrust one of its claws forwards, which extended as it flew towards the sound shinobi. Though Kimimaro was able to dodge the attack, the dark red arm was able to graze him, immediately burning his skin with the mere touch. Seeing the creature's other arm coming his way, the gray-haired teen jumped into the air. The two appendages followed in quick pursuit. Swinging his whip, the Otonin cut down the two incoming limbs, but his efforts were useless as they instantly grew back and continued their chase. The gray-haired teen was forced to jump between branches as the red limbs pursue him. No matter how many times he cut them down, they would return as if it were nothing. Eventually, the creature's arms got a hold of their prey, wrapping themselves around the dark-skinned monsters, searing his skin. Sawarabi no Mai! Kimimaro exclaimed through the pain as he forced his body down to slam his restricted hands onto the ground. Immediately, several large bones emerged out of the dirt, severing the creature's arm. More and more bones started sprouting all around the forest. Beneath the red beast's paws, more bones began rising, forcing it to jump out of the way. The Kagaya took this chance to close in on his opponent, but the creature had already recovered and charged forward to meet the Sound Nin's attack with one of his own. The fight between the two monsters continued for a while and very soon the forest was unrecognizable. Giant bones spread throughout, trees snapped like twigs, bone fragments scattered, and burn marks could be found everywhere. Kimimaro landed some distance away from his opponent, bringing one of his hands up as he started to cough. Looking down at his hand, he saw it covered in blood. My time is running out, he commented, glancing ahead at his adversary. Despite not showing any sign of slowing down, the beast seemed to be heaving. The extended use of the Biju's chakra must be taking a toll on him. The Odo shinobi reasoned, realizing that their battle was coming to a close. I have to finish this now, he said as he panted. I still have to protect Orochimaru-sama's plan, the Kage said as he aimed the large bone drill on his left arm. A large amount of dark chakra started to emanate from the young man's body. The creature seemed to understand its opponent's intentions as it let out a menacing growl before suddenly opening its mouth wide. A monstrous amount of chakra started to gather in front of the red beast in the shape of a sphere as the ground beneath it started to give as if the creature had suddenly become a lot heavier. Jarg! Kimimaro let out a primal roar as he charged forward with his drill, faster than he had ever moved before. Naruto, the look you had in your eyes. Gaara's consciousness thought from inside the creature as it reeled back. That look of worry for someone else's well-being. I want it too. The chakra sphere was ready. Naruto. Am I capable of protecting the people I care about? He pondered as the red beast pushed its body forward, releasing a devastating blast at the incoming Kimimaro. A colossal explosion detonated in the forest, consuming both monsters and their torn battlefield in a blinding light, while the earth shook. Kakashi jumped from branch to branch at an impressive speed. The Jounin's mind raged with thoughts about his students. He had truly let things get out of control. His own damn pride had almost destroyed one of his students, and then it had kept him from making things right. Due to his own hesitation, the Hatake had let down every important person in his life from the third Hokage and his own teacher to even Guy who still refused to speak to him about anything that was not mission-related. Who would have thought that the silver-haired man would miss the constant youthful challenges from his fellow jounin? I have to fix things, Kakashi muttered to himself. Things are about to go over the edge for Team 7. And for the sake of my students, and all those people that place their trust in me, I have to prevent that from happening. The copy ninja stated. He knew that things were nearing its boiling point when he left for this mission, so now, as Konohagakure appeared in his view, the silver-haired man could only hope that it was not too late. As soon as he was done with the paperwork for the mission he had just finished, Kakashi would call for a long-overdue meeting for Team 7. Chapter 28, Kaleidoscopic Bond. Naruto pushed his body to move as fast as it could. With each branch he jumped off of, the blonde tried desperately not to think about what he had to leave behind, about his severely injured friends, about the insanely powerful shinobi from Sound, or about the gigantic explosion he had felt a while back. All that Genin could allow himself to focus on was catching up with the blue-haired teen and save Sasuke. Otherwise all that he and his friends had gone throughout would be rendered meaningless. I swear. After I bring him home I'm going to beat Sasuke within an inch of his life, Naruto said to himself between jumps in order to keep his mind off more unpleasant matters. Or better yet, I will just let him face the wrath of the village girls, while I just sit back and enjoy the show. He added, focusing back on the chase. The Sharingan user had forgotten how long he had been running after Yukon for quite some time. The silent threat issued by Kimimaro had seemingly done its job as it lit a powerful fire under the blue-haired shinobi. Despite being severely injured by Shikamaru's trap, the Sound Nin had been running at top speed since the very start, and not giving any signs of slowing down, making it incredibly difficult for Naruto to catch up. Finally, after what had to be at least several hours of chasing, Naruto was able to make up Yukon's and the wood container's figures in the distance. You bastard. I got you now, the spiky-haired teen said to himself, managing to muster a bit more speed thanks to the elation at the sight of his target. Sensing a power spike behind him, Yukon looked over his shoulder. The Oto Nin's eyes widened in shock when he saw the blonde right on his tail. How did you get past Kimimaro? The young man exclaimed in surprise and bewilderment, but to his credit, did not slow down. Little by little, Naruto started to reduce the distance between him and the Sound Ninja. Just a bit more, and he could bring this whole crazy mission to an end. Yukon started to panic. The spiky-haired boy was going to catch up to him at any minute, and even if he dropped the Uchiha and made a run for it, it would not be long before Kimimaro or Orochimaru himself found him. Suddenly the sight of a river appeared in front of the blue-haired teen, filling him with hope. I'm almost at the border, the Oto Nin whispered to himself. If I can just make it down the waterfall it'll be a straight shot right out of this hellhole, he said, feeling a bit of energy returning to his body. Quickly closing the distance, Yukon jumped off the waterfall's edge and for a second, he could already picture himself reaching Orochimaru's hideout. The next second, however, the wooden container exploded and large dragon mouth, made out of electricity, engulfed the blue-haired teen completely. By the time Yukon's body finally landed on the ground, it never moved again. Sasuke! Naruto shouted when he watched the explosion and the right unjutsu disappear over the edge. Reaching the waterfall, the blonde jumped into one of the two statues and glanced down, his eyes widening in surprise by what greeted them. At the foot of the waterfall, a strange figure was panting. The creature had dark skin and long, messy dark gray hair. Then, slowly, the skin began to clear up and the hair to recede, and gradually that figure started to resemble Sasuke once again. What the hell? Naruto whispered to himself before shaking off his bewilderment. Sasuke, are you alright? He called out. The Uchiha was glancing down at his own body, trying to make sense of what had just happened. It had been like his first experience with the curse eel back in the Forest of Death, only about 1,000 times stronger. He had felt incredibly powerful and eager to take on the world once again. The only difference then and now, though, was that the raven-haired teen knew better this time. His teammate's voice snapped the genin out of his thoughts. I think I am, he responded. Sighing in relief, Naruto decided that it would be better to deal with whatever had just happened once they were both back in the village. That's great. Let's go. If we hurry we can make it back before Ichiraku's closes, the blonde stated. Also, Shikamaru and the others probably need medical attention, he added with a small hint of humor as he was about to turn around and set out back to Konoha. No, Sasuke responded in a low voice just barely audible by the blonde on top of the waterfall. What? The Jinchuriki asked incredulously as he turned back around and looked down at his teammate. The Uchiha held his gaze at the spiky-haired teen. I'm not planning to go back to the village, he clarified. Sure, whatever the sound ninjas had done to him did make the raven-haired genin feel stronger than he ever felt before, but Sasuke knew too well that his newfound power would be meaningless. What the young man truly wanted was to become strong enough to suppress any instinct that genetically might drive him to destroy the things he valued the most, as Itachi had claimed he would, and for that what he needed, above all else, was control, and his experience in the Forest of Death had made it clear that he had no control over whatever power the curse seal gave him. At least not for now. Sasuke added, finally dropping his gaze. Are you crazy? Naruto screamed, not bothering to hide his anger. Shikamaru and the others risked their lives for you. Sakura was left completely devastated because of what you did, he shouted. And despite all that, you still want to continue with this stupidity. The blonde's word echoed throughout the entire valley. Sasuke gritted his teeth, but he was unable to stop the anger that was rising inside of him too. It's exactly because of them that I'm doing this, he shouted back. We're both Uchiha. Our blood will try to get us to kill each other. Do you want to put Sakura and the others through that? The raven-haired teen asked. You don't know that, the Jinchuriki rebutted. The only time I've ever wanted to kill you is right now. And not because of the Uchiha blood, but because you're acting like a colossal moron, Naruto shouted, closing his fists so tight that blood started to run down from them. Trying to calm himself, Sasuke shook his head. You just don't understand, he whispered as his gaze dropped down. From the edge of his line of sight, the young man could see his reflection on the water. The two genin remained silent for several minutes, Naruto glaring at Sasuke, while the raven-haired teen continued to look at the ground. Fight me, Naruto, Sasuke finally said, taking his teammate by surprise. If I win, that means that I should be strong enough to hold back whatever power the Uchiha blood has over me and I can return to the village, the young man pointed out. But if I lose, you have to let me leave, he added. The blonde shook his head. Just when I thought you couldn't say anything stupider, he commented humorlessly. I'm not going to fight you, Sasuke, the Jinchuriki stated firmly. The Uchiha's eyes narrowed. Yes, you will. If you want to finally put an end to his whole ordeal, the young man declared. Fight me, and fight me with all you have so that we can finally find out who is stronger. You know I'll be able to tell if you hold back. Anger started to overwhelm the spiky-haired teen again. Then what's stopping me from beating the holy hell out of you and then simply dragging your sorry ass back to the village? He asked, playing along. Sasuke's eyes did not waver at the question. Then the first thing I'll do when I get back is put in my resignation as a ninja of the leaf. It's that simple, he calmly responded. A pair of sapphire eyes widened in surprise for a second before they narrowed in pure and unrelenting anger. It's that simple, huh? He repeated his teammate's words. Very well, the blonde continued as his hand reached up to his leaf headband. If you can so easily ignore the suffering you're inflicting on those you care about, then so can I, Naruto added as he ripped out the headband from his forehead and threw it to the side. I'm just going to beat the living crap out of you. It's that simple, he shouted as the Source Sharingan appeared in his eyes and he jumped off the waterfall. By the time Sasuke activated his own Sharingan, half a dozen blondes had already landed around him and immediately moved into attack. Thanks to the fact that his dojutsu had finally fully matured, Sasuke could actually follow all the incoming punches and kicks from Naruto and his clones. Unfortunately, being able to see them did not do much against the strength, speed, and greater number that they were coming at. Little by little, the raven-haired boy was being pushed back as he was forced to stay completely in the defensive. Eventually, a punch broke through the raven-haired teen's defenses, connecting with the side of his face and causing him to stumble back several steps to the point he was pushed back onto the lake. Seeing the army of spiky-haired genin immediately lunged forwards after him, Sasuke cut off the chakra emanation from his feet and let his body fall into the water, but not before releasing an explosive tag just as his opponents were closing in. Underwater, the raven-haired boy saw the explosion engulf all of his attackers. The Uchiha resurfaced a short distance away, but was not quick enough when the real Naruto shot out of the cloud of smoke left by the explosive tag and delivered a devastating blow to the raven-haired genin's midsection with enough force to send his body flying away. Feeling his lights go out for a second, Sasuke was able to recover mid-flight and quickly formed a series of hand seals. Gakakyu no Jutsu, he called out before releasing a large fireball down towards the blonde. Suigaden! Naruto responded instantly as the water projectiles shot out of the lake and intercepted the incoming Katan attack, canceling each other out. Once Sasuke landed back on the water, The two Sharingan users took a second to glare at each other before charging forward to continue their fight. Wandering through the door, Sakura immediately closed it behind her. Letting out a weary sigh as she pressed her back against the wooden object, the leaf genin let her body slide down until she was sitting in the dark on the cold and dirty floor of Naruto's apartment. Once the kunoichi meeting finally ended, the pink-haired girl had expressed her desire not to go home. Thankfully, without even asking questions about it, Ino told her that she would cover for her and tell her parents that she was staying over so they would not worry. After that, the Haruno wandered the streets by herself, trying her best not to think of what might be happening with her teammates and friends at the moment, but failing miserably. Were they able to find Sasuke? Were they able to convince him to come back? Did the confrontation turn physical? Why have they yet to hear anything from them? All of those questions and many more continued to echo inside the kunoichi's mind. Eventually, in the middle of all that deep pondering, Sakura found herself back at Naruto's apartment, and having nowhere else to spend what would most likely be a long night, decided to enter. He really needs to learn how to clean his stuff, the girl said humorlessly as she glanced around at the chaotic apartment, having failed to see the disarray when she had been there earlier. Those events seemed like they had been a lifetime ago, a lifetime that she was forced to do nothing but wait and hope for her teammates to turn up and tell her that everything was going to be fine. Throwing away the half-eaten cup of ramen she had left before Tenten had decided to, almost forcibly, drag her out, as well as some of the thrash nearby, Sakura decided to wash some of her teammates' dishes while she was at it. Anything to keep her mind away from aggravating thoughts. For the first few minutes, the pink-haired teen's plan worked as she was able to clean a couple of plates without sinking back into despair. However, her small peace of mind was cut short by sudden sound of something falling to the floor and of glass shattering. Looking around, Sakura soon found the source of the noise. Approaching the object, the young woman realized that one of the portraits Naruto kept had fallen from its place up on the wall. Picking the picture up, the Haruno felt a terrible shiver run down her spine as she saw that it had been Naruto's copy of Team 7's picture that had fallen. The genin was so shocked that she accidentally cut one of her fingers with a shard of broken glass, a few drops her blood falling directly on the unprotected picture. Immediately, the suffocating sense of dread returned at full force. Please, let this just be a mere coincidence. Sakura prayed to whatever god would listen and hoped that the fall of the picture frame would not be some sort of bad omen, that it would not be the world's way of telling her that Team 7 was done for. Sasuke-kun. Naruto. Please come back. The girl broke down as the weight of the entire situation became too much for her to bear. Her tears washed away the blood that had fallen on the portrait. Rasengan, Chidori. Things had escalated in the fight between the two leaf genin. Punches and kicks gave way to kunai and shuriken, which in turn were replaced by ninjutsu, leading to the clash between the two powerful techniques right at the foot of the waterfall. Through the collision of raw chakra, Naruto and Sasuke managed to glare at each other once again before their attacks detonated into a massive explosion, throwing the two teenagers back as if they were ragdolls. Had enough yet, Sasuke? The blonde asked in a ragged breath, as he secured his footing on top of the lake. The Uchiha struggled to push his body off the ground as the knot that tied his headband came undone, and the artifact fell off. Of course not. Why? You want to quit? The raven-haired boy retorted, his voice just as tired. Without saying another word, the two Sharingan users lunged at each other once again, coming full circle as both of them went back to use their fists to attack their opponent. As they resumed trading punches, Sasuke felt himself gaining more and more ground. Suddenly his speed was starting to keep up and his strength to push back the blonde. Gradually exhaustion gave way to excitement. Managing to completely dodge a punch that was aimed at his head, the Uchiha had a clear shot to deliver a powerful kick onto Naruto's stomach with enough force to push him back all the way to the stone wall at the edge of the valley. A smile appeared on the raven-haired teen's face at the look of anger he received from his teammate. Unbeknownst to Sasuke, the first level of the curse seal had activated sometime during the fight. Naruto quickly performed hand seals. Gakakyu no Jutsu. He breathed out a fireball towards his teammate. Not bothering to challenge the attack, the raven-haired genin simply jumped high into the air to avoid the incoming Katan Jutsu. Taking out a pair of kunai, the Uchiha threw them in succession towards the blonde. Sidestepping the first projectile, the Jinchuriki evaded the second blade as he jumped after the raven-haired teen. However, being too focused on his target caused Naruto to fail to notice as the two cables tied to both kunai. Sasuke brought the ends of the threads up to his mouth. Ryoka no Jutsu. He called out before breathing fire into the cables and sending a pair of fire dragons speeding down towards the spiky-haired boy. Cursing under his breath at the realization that he did not have enough time for hand seals that would take him out of his current predicament, Naruto had no other option but to send chakra into his eyes. Amaterasu. Instantly, a surge of black flame stopped the two dragons right on their tracks, consuming both of them in a matter of seconds. However, surprising both genin, the black flames did not stop there as they quickly traveled up towards Sasuke on the pair of threads that had carried the Uchiha's jutsu. Realizing the danger, Sasuke let go of the cables before the flames could get to him. Unfortunately, the leaf nin was too slow as a single ember managed to reach him, immediately setting his entire left sleeve on fire. The searing pain was instant, causing the raven-haired teen to fall down limply on the ground. Trying not to let panic overwhelm him, the Uchiha searched until he found somewhere to grab a hold of his cloths that was not on fire and ripped out the fabric that was ablaze. Immediately, the severe pain that the Sharingan users was feeling was replaced by intense dread at the sight of the curse seals marking spread to most of his body's left side. What? Sasuke whispered in surprise. When did it? The boy's inquiry was cut short as the seals suddenly started to throb, sending wave after wave of searing pain throughout his entire being. Naruto watched stunned as his teammate toppled over and the black marks on his body started to glow burning red. Slowly, the seals continued to spread, transforming Sasuke into the figure that the blonde had seen from atop of the waterfall with the darkened skin and long gray hair. Arg! The Uchiha screamed in pain as a pair of large, wing-like appendages sprout from his back. Opening his eyes, the genin revealed a pair of large, blackened eyes with a fear-filled Sharingan in the middle of it. Let's stop this, Sasuke, Naruto suggested once the initial shock wore off, worry taking the place of the anger that had been controlling him. You need help, he added, still trying to shake the terror of his sudden transformation off. The raven-haired teen shook his head. No, we will finish this, he said as he struggled to stand up. Even though all the pain his body was in had been replaced by more energy and strength that the young man had ever felt, Sasuke still felt extremely unsure of himself as the shock had yet to wear off. You just want to quit? Because I was starting to gain the upper hand, the genin said, trying to still his nerves. Damn it! The Jinchuriki exclaimed as the anger started to return. Would you quit acting so stupid? Things are getting way out of hand already and yet you still want to continue? The blonde raged as he gripped his fist tightly. Sasuke shook his head. I have to keep going. We have to. The transformed teen's body wavered the slightest. We have to settle this one and for all, he stated before charging forward. Cursing once more, Naruto lunged forward to meet his teammate head-on, pumping chakra into his arms to keep up with his opponent's transformed state. The collision between the two genin was strong enough to cause a small wave to ripple through the lake. Both Sharingan users were pushed back by the backlash of their attack and, as soon as they landed, the two started making hand seals immediately. Suigaden, Housekin no Jutsu, a pair of water twister rose out of the lake from the blonde's jutsu, but they were immediately ripped into droplets of water by the barrage of small fireballs released by the raven-haired teen. Naruto was forced to jump back to dodge the incoming attack. Sasuke took advantage of the split second that his opponent was preoccupied with dodging to charge forward at top speed, a Chidori soon chirping in his left hand. Moving on instinct, the Jinchuriki made a series of seals. Kakugen Kangoku no Jutsu, he quickly declared before several stone walls rose between him and the incoming, right-unwielding Uchiha. The Chidori smashed through all the barriers easily, but it was still enough time for Naruto not only to make a clean getaway, but also position himself behind his opponent to counter with a roundhouse kick. Seeing his teammate's leg approach, the raven-haired boy moved one of his wing appendages up to block it. Though the wing managed to absorb most of the impact, the kick still carried enough force to push the transformed teen back. The two Sharingan users caught each other's eyes for a single second before instantly charging at each other again, their fists colliding with each other once more before they both jumped back to put some distance between them. Looking at each other, both members silently came to an agreement to go all out in their next attack and each started to pool massive amounts of chakra. Soon, one genin was surrounded by a dragon made out of pure electricity while the other was covered in flames, which rose to form a single wing on his right-hand side. Hyoku, Raikiri Ryu! Almost in synchronized precision, the two boys shot towards each other with their respective jutsus burning in the palm of their hands as they thrust them forward. The pair of powerful ninjutsu collided, pushing water and rubble out of their way. The chakra in the two attacks resonated with one another, trapping the two genin in a sphere of pure light as each tried to push the other one back. Despite the blinding brilliance of their surrounding, the two Sharingan users could still see each other clearly. Neither of them knew the reason why. Maybe it was because of the rivalry they had held against the other for so long, or maybe because of the hold their Uchiha blood had over them, but at that moment they both felt a sense of contentment. Suddenly, any feeling of ease was stripped away from Naruto as he felt a bout of massive pain spread throughout his body. The Jinchuriki had to deal with brief attacks of pain ever since he absorbed the fox's chakra, but they had all been quite short, lasting only enough to be a mild bother. This one, however, was not like that. The spiky-haired boy felt as if he had eaten an explosive tag, and now his insides were burning up. The pain reached such a high level that for a single moment, the young man completely blacked out, causing the Katan Jutsu to extinguish from his hand. With nothing to clash again all of a sudden, Sasuke's lightning-covered hand continued forward and, before the raven-haired teen could do anything about, plunged straight into his teammate's chest. The shock in Naruto's eyes was only matched by Sasuke's as the two looked straight at each other, the light fading away and leaving the two genin standing silently in the middle of the lake. Ever so slowly and without uttering a single sound, Naruto's body started to fall back, the Uchiha hand getting dislodged out of his chest as the blonde fell into the water. Sasuke's mind refused to make sense of what has just occurred. Instead, his eyes simply followed his teammate as he disappeared into the blood-stained waters of the lake. The Uchiha dropped to his knees as the water began to clear of the spiky-haired boy's blood and his reflection started to become visible. In it, the Uchiha could see the curse seal's transformation fading away and his body returning to normal. But then something else caught his attention. Cold dread washed over the raven-haired genin as his brother's words about the Manjikyu Sharingan echoed inside his head. In his reflection on the water, Sasuke witnessed as his own Sharingan started to change. The three komas had melded into the circle in the center, which was now sprouting small spikes around its perimeter, making it look like a 6-point star, and was still in the process of changing, of evolving. Naruto felt strange. His descent into the depths of the lake had suddenly halted, leaving him suspended motionlessly in the water. Huh? So you finally got yourself killed, kid? The Kyuubi's voice boomed into his ear. Well, I guess it wasn't completely your fault this time, he added. A pair of sapphire eyes snapped open, finding themselves in absolute darkness. What do you mean? He asked, noticing that the water did not rush in when he opened his mouth. The young Jinchuriki was starting to doubt he was still in the lake. A short chuckle escaped the Bijou. Those bouts of pain. It seems that your body is far too young for the amount of chakra you took from me, so my chakra has been trying to forcibly integrate with your own chakra pathways, the demon explained. And today it just happened to occur at the worst possible time, he pointed out, his voice carrying an amused tone. You knew about this? Why the hell didn't you say anything? Naruto demanded to know as anger started to rise inside of him. I was too curious about what would happen, I guess, Kyuubi said with disinterest. The blonde gritted his teeth at the response he received. And now we're both going to die because of it, the blonde commented bitterly. Another chuckle echoed through the darkness. Not necessarily, the fox started. If you don't fight me off, I could help the integration of my chakra with yours. I'm sure that my chakra will be able to heal that nice little wound your friend opened in your chest. Naruto narrowed his eyes. You'll help me just like that? Am I supposed to believe you don't want anything in exchange? He asked, not bothering to hide his distrust. Full-on laughter was the initial answer to the boy's question. Now you are starting to actually think, kid, the Bijou commented. By helping you, I'm ensuring that you don't drag along on your way to hell. And like I said, I'm curious to see what will happen next, the fox explained, the amusement thick in his voice. The Uzumaki remained silent for a few seconds, contemplating the proposition. Fine, you furball. Do your thing, the genin finally decided. Very well, kid, Kyuubi responded. But do me and yourself a favor. Don't lose yourself in it. Something tells me that a weak mind like you would not handle guilt very well, the fox added ominously. What? Naruto tried to ask what the Bijou meant, but before he could finish, all the water around him suddenly started to boil and became agitated. Back on top of the lake, the still stunned Sasuke continued to look dumbly into the water, tears running silently down his cheeks. The Uchiha was snapped out of his trance when the water around him started to become turbulent. The genin searched his surrounding for whatever was causing it, and received an answer in the form of the image of a large ethereal-looking fox rising from the depths of the lake. Before the raven-haired genin could even think about how to react to what he was seeing, a flash of orange blinded him and, the next thing he knew, a fist suddenly emerged from the water and connected with his chin, sending him flying into the air. Another flash of light, and Sasuke's eyes widened as Naruto appeared in front of him in mid-air. At first glance, the blonde seemed to be on fire, But with his evolving Sharingan, the Uchiha could see that it was raw chakra covering his body, with strange black marking all throughout. The blue Sharingan had been replaced by a pair of orange, animalistic slit eyes. The raven-haired genin barely had enough time to assess his teammate's new appearance when the spiky-haired teen delivered a powerful punch to the side of his face, sending Sasuke flying with so much force that his body skipped in the water. The Uchiha was still in mid-flight when, with another flash, the Uzumaki appeared behind him and drove a powerful kick to the teen's gut, sending him airborne yet again. A fourth flash and Naruto intercepted his fellow genin with a downward punch. Sasuke was thrown around the entire valley like a ragdoll. The young leaf nin could not even land anywhere as the transformed blonde would appear before that and simply kick him or punch him in another direction. Finally, Naruto directed a powerful punch into his teammate's midsection, sending him crashing down to the side of the cliff right next to the waterfall. Being completely controlled by savage instincts, the Jinchuriki pumped out even more chakra before charging forward to deliver the finishing blow, his fist already pulled back. An image suddenly appeared in the spiky-haired teen's mind. It was a scene of an unconscious Sasuke being held against a tree by his own hand, while Sakura pressed her head against his back and cried. "No!" Naruto shouted in his mind just as his charged fist was about to crush his teammate's skull. At the last second, the genin was able to redirect his punch to barely miss the Uchiha, and instead drive it into the side of the waterfall, creating a large hole in it. The Jinchuriki panted in exhaustion as the chakra started to fade from his body, and he returned to normal. Weakly, the raven-haired genin opened his eyes and looked at the other leaf shinobi. "Naruto." He was barely able to mutter, "It's over," the blonde stated. "It's over now," the Uzumaki said wearily as he pulled his fist out of the rock. Sasuke continued to look at his teammate, and struggling to remain conscious. Suddenly, the Uchiha's eyes widened as he pushed his body forward. "Look out!" he exclaimed before pushing Naruto out of the way. The spiky-haired teen was caught by surprise and all he could do was watch in horror as Sasuke was impaled by a barrage of bone-like projectiles that was meant for him. "Sasuke!" Naruto shouted.